Chapter 1384, The Hidden Threat of Qingyun, Declaration of War Part 1. Chapter 1384, The Hidden Threat of Qingyun, Declaration of War Part 1. The old site of the Qingyun immortal sect. Located just 1,000,000 miles away from the perilous West Sky Black Sea, this place was once the proud homeland of the Qingyun immortal sect. Here, countless disciples cultivated their immortality, and mortal cities thrived under their protection. The lands once stretched far and wide, covered in endless rolling hills of lush greenery, like clouds stretching to the heavens. The Qingyun immortal sect nurtured millions of beings, its power once unmatched, with grand cities and sects dotting the landscape. Immortals and mortals coexisted peacefully, and cultivation flourished. But all of that is now nothing more than a memory, swept away by the tides of calamity. With the descent of the Great Catastrophe, the Qingyun province suffered horrific losses, and its inhabitants faced unimaginable suffering. Though the Qingyun immortal sect tried to shelter as many as they could within their earth immortal domain, offering sanctuary to the fleeing cultivators and mortals, their efforts could only save a fraction of the once great population. Those unlucky enough to be left behind had no choice but to flee, seeking refuge in distant lands, while many others perished, consumed by calamity, their bodies transformed into puppets or fading into black mist. Now the Qingyun immortal sect's once prosperous lands lie in ruin, covered by choking calamity energy, shrouded in darkness. The once vibrant mountain ranges are now pierced by the roots of mysterious trees, their iron-like tendrils burrowing deep into the earth, greedily siphoning all remaining life force from the land. A vast web of black and eerie light blankets the entire region, where countless calamity spirits roam, their whispers carried on the chilling winds. The cities that once thrived are reduced to crumbling ruins, with their walls toppled and their magnificent palaces collapsed into desolate heaps. The once sacred cultivation grounds of the Qingyun immortal sect are now overrun by foul waters and twisted spirits, transformed into nests for demonic creatures. The grand halls, once radiating divine brilliance, are now charred remnants, consumed by the unrelenting flames of calamity that burn endlessly, as if they would never extinguish. As for the many beings that once called these lands home, their bones are nowhere to be found. Instead, every wisp of calamity energy is the lingering resentment and remnants of their spirits. And now, these harrowing scenes played out vividly in Jiang Chengxuan's mind, as the power of his heavenly calamity divination showed him the horrifying sight of the mysterious trees devouring the Qingyun immortal sect's lands. The sheer scale of the devastation and the powerful calamity energy left him deeply shaken. The calamity force at this site was already far stronger than what he had encountered at the Liyun Valley, and it was clear that the mysterious trees had absorbed the entire life force of Qingyun Mountain. Their roots were now creeping closer, soon to reach the lands of Zizhu and the scattered immortal alliance. Sigh, Jiang Chengxuan exhaled deeply, putting away the divination compass and letting the power of karma dissipate from his body. His expression was deep and contemplative as he gazed into the distance, lost in thought. The encroachment of the mysterious trees was imminent, and they had no choice but to prepare euros. Whether to flee or fight, they needed to decide on a course of action soon. If not, the scattered immortal alliance would meet the same fate as the Qingyun immortal sect. "Husband," a soft voice called out from behind, breaking his thoughts. It was Shen Ruoyan, her graceful figure stepping out of the shadows, her gentle voice filled with concern. Jiang Chengxuan turned toward his beloved wife, his expression softening as he spoke. "What's the matter, my dear?" Without speaking, Shen Ruoyan walked up to his side, gently taking his hand. Together, they stepped outside their abode, standing beneath the vast expanse of the starry sky. In silent understanding, they shared this brief moment of peace. Though destruction loomed, and the storm gathered on the horizon, the night sky remained dazzling and bright, its stars twinkling in all their glory. Yet few had the heart to appreciate its beauty. Under the weight of the great calamity, everyone's minds were consumed with thoughts of survival, with little room for anything else. But beneath the stars, Jiang Chengxuan could feel the intent behind Shen Ruoyan's actions. She sought to ease his worries, and for a moment they shared a quiet calm, as if they were the only two souls in the universe. "From the lower realms to here, I've realized that the stars in the immortal realm aren't all that different from those below," Shen Ruoyan mused with a soft smile. "They're just brighter, maybe more dazzling." Jiang Chengxuan smiled in return. No matter where we are on this journey to immortality, whether at the foot of the mountain or halfway up, perhaps it all feels the same in the end. His words revealed the heaviness in his heart. As the calamity bore down, he realized that despite all his strength and accomplishments, he was still subject to the whims of fate, no different from any other living being under the heavens. Maybe so, Shen Royan replied, her laughter light and carefree. But to me, standing here by your side is already a dream come true. This happiness, how can it be ordinary? Yang Chengxuan's heart stirred at her words. He held her hand tighter, his gaze soft as he replied. Today and in the future, we will walk even farther together and witness many more sights along the path of immortality. Chapter 1385, Hidden Threat of Qingyun Declaration of War Part 2. Chapter 1385, Hidden Threat of Qingyun Declaration of War Part 2. I believe you. Their words, though simple, were filled with deep affection as they drifted into the night, carrying away the endless worry. The next day, inside the grand hall of the Loose Cultivator Alliance, under the golden, resplendent dragon pillars, a group of elders with extraordinary auras gathered once more. Among them, aside from Jiang Chengxuan, Shen Ruyan, and the elders of the Loose Cultivator Alliance sitting at the main seat, the high-level cultivators of various allied forces had also come in response to his summons. Qingyun Immortal and Fugong Immortal were also seated among them. Under Jiang Chengxuan's arrangement, the Qingyun Immortal sect had already been relocated to a secluded valley, and now Qingyun Immortal no longer needed to worry about their immediate safety. With 3 Earth Immortals, divine realms protecting them, the Loose Cultivator Alliance was as strong as a fortress. Even if the calamity struck, it would be swiftly suppressed. However, the atmosphere in the hall was far from optimistic. Sitting on their thrones, everyone's expressions were grim as they exchanged glances. It was obvious to all that the reason Jiang Chengxuan had called everyone together at this time was to address the threat of the strange trees. The terrifying reputation of the strange trees was known by everyone present. Even Earth Immortals struggled to completely suppress the strange trees' dreadful powers. In this great calamity, these strange trees were the very root of the disaster. I've gathered everyone here today for one reason, the strange trees. As everyone expected, Jiang Chengxuan got straight to the point as soon as he opened his mouth in the somber hall. Without waiting for anyone to ask questions, Jiang Chengxuan looked around and continued in a serious tone. Yesterday, I used the art of divination to spy on the condition of the strange trees. Everything is, as Qingyun Immortal described. The strange trees have completely taken over Qingyun province, constantly absorbing the province's vital energy and transforming it into waves of calamity chi and calamity spirits that are gathering in the wastelands. These words caused everyone in the hall to draw a sharp breath. The people of Qingyun Immortal sect, upon hearing this, showed expressions of grief and anger. Jiang Chengxuan, however, did not stop there. He continued to reveal what he had discovered. I estimate that in no more than 3 fortnights, the strange trees will have fully absorbed the power of Qingyun province. At that point, there's a 90% chance that the first target will be our western continent. I hope everyone understands the gravity of this situation and prepares in advance. This time, after Jiang Chengxuan finished speaking, the entire hall fell into a long silence. Many sect elders, despite being mighty immortals, could not help but feel a bit stifled, their hearts pounding and a chill creeping over them. 3 fortnights. For cultivators, it was truly the blink of an eye. In many cases, they wouldn't even be able to complete a single cycle of their cultivation techniques in that time. Yet now, this brief period would determine the survival of an entire region of the immortal realm. Even the lives of 3 Earth Immortals, the leading powers of the region, hung in the balance. Jiangzun, do you have a plan? After some time passed, with murmurs running through the crowd, a representative of one of the allied forces finally stepped forward and addressed Jiang Chengxuan. The high-level members of the allied forces behind him also looked on, unsure and anxious. The gravity of this matter was too great for them to decide on their own. After all, they were just mid-level sects led by true immortals. Being under the protection of Earth Immortals was already a great blessing for them. In such matters, they had no choice but to prioritize Jiang Chengxuan's judgment. Under the gaze of the entire hall, Jiang Chengxuan didn't hesitate. His eyes filled with resolve as he stood up and spoke to the assembly. The vast immortal realm is already engulfed by the great calamity. Outside the western continent, where else can we go? This battle, we must fight it. Now is the time when we are at our strongest. We must not hesitate. With those words, Jiang Chengxuan's aura surged, his robe fluttering even though there was no wind, and an air of authority radiated from him. His powerful presence left everyone in awe, and after a moment of silence, discussions resumed, with many nodding in agreement. What Chengxuan said is exactly what I was thinking. With so many Earth immortals gathered here, how can we allow this calamity chi to run rampant and let others look down on the cultivators of the Western continent? At this moment, Yuanhen Immortal stepped forward from Jiang Chengxuan's side, his face resolute, and his fighting spirit surged as he spoke. He had personally witnessed the strange trees and had never been afraid. He had tasted the bitterness of the calamity chi, but he had never feared it. Seeing this, Shen Ruyan, Qin Shenwu, Red/Fairy, Elder Su, and many other loyal followers immediately stepped forward, supporting the declaration of war. As Jiang Chengxuan's most faithful followers, they would unhesitatingly stand behind any decision he made. If the Loose Cultivator Alliance has resolved to act, then my Tianlong Merchant Association will certainly not sit idly by. We're in too. Count us in for this fight. At that moment, Fugong Immortal also stood up in the hall, his expression solemn, and he spoke without a hint of doubt. Behind him, the many elders of the Tianlong Merchant Association followed suit, standing up one by one, their auras collected but intense. In an instant, the atmosphere in the entire hall shifted, transforming from tense to charged with battle energy, like the winds of autumn sweeping through the leaves. Jiang Chengxuan's words had summoned a response from all corners, his declaration of war rallying countless to his cause. This display of influence was undeniably impressive. Even Qingyun Immortal was left speechless for a moment, deeply shaken. It should be noted that among Earth immortals, while there might be friendships, it was rare to see relationships of shared hardship or life-and-death bonds. Most of them were simply fellow travelers on the path of immortality, content to avoid conflict. That alone was considered a blessing. But now, with Jiang Chengxuan's single call, even other Earth immortals responded immediately and without hesitation. Such a scene was exceedingly rare, even for someone like Qingyun Immortal, who had lived for tens of thousands of years. My Qingyun Immortal sect was destroyed by these strange trees. Today, we've found refuge thanks to the great kindness of everyone here. No matter what, my Qingyun Immortal sect will participate in this battle. Reflecting on this, Qingyun Immortal did not hesitate any longer and spoke up in a loud, firm voice. His words were genuine. As the patriarch of his sect, Qingyun Immortal had poured countless years of effort into nurturing his sect. Now that it had been destroyed by calamity chi, there was no way he could swallow this bitterness. And with Jiang Chengxuan and other Earth immortals leading the charge, this was undoubtedly the best opportunity for him to seek vengeance. How could he miss such a chance? Even if he chose not to fight, the elders of the Qingyun Immortal sect would not stand for it. With Qingyun Immortal's declaration, the entire hall agreed to proactively confront the strange trees. The cultivators from various factions all looked to Jiang Chengxuan with determined and fierce expression. Good. Since everyone is in agreement, we'll launch our attack in one fortnight. Make all necessary preparations. When the time comes, we'll face the calamity outside the Western continent. With this, Jiang Chengxuan's face showed satisfaction, and his expression grew firm as he declared in a resonant voice. His words echoed through the hall, weighty as mountains. A fortnight, by his calculations, would be the perfect time when the strange trees and calamity spirits had absorbed the majority of Qingyun province's energy and would begin advancing toward the Western continent. To battle at that precise moment would not only minimize the impact on the alliances within the Western continent, but also allow them to avoid the support of the calamity chi walls and other reinforcements for the strange trees. It was, in every respect, the most advantageous moment to strike. Hearing this, the Earth immortals in the hall all brightened with understanding and quickly began making their own calculations. Although they lacked Jiang Chengxuan's profound skill in divination, with the information he provided, they could roughly verify his conclusion. Brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. With this plan, our chances of victory increase significantly. Chengxuan's mastery of divination is truly astonishing. Yuanhen Immortal's expression relaxed, and he laughed heartily as he praised. Upon hearing this, the leaders of the other factions nodded in agreement, their eyes now gleaming with newfound confidence. With Jiang Chengxuan at the helm of this battle, they all felt much more secure. Chapter 1386, The Earth-Shaking Battle, 4 Earth Immortals and 100 Immortals, Part 1. Chapter 1386, The Earth-Shaking Battle, 4 Earth Immortals and 100 Immortals, Part 1. The decision for the alliances of the Western continent to confront the calamity and the strange tree was made during this meeting. As the leaders of the various factions returned to their sects, preparations for the upcoming battle began to unfold in an orderly fashion. Ultimately, after extensive discussion between Jiang Chengxuan and the sect leaders, the list of participants for this earth-shaking battle was finalized. Naturally, the loose cultivator alliance would lead the charge, with Jiang Chengxuan, an Earth Immortal at the mid-stage, appointed as the sole commander of the entire army. Supporting him were Yuanhen Immortal, Shen Ruyan, and others. From the loose cultivator alliance, 2 Earth Immortal sovereigns, 10 true immortal cultivators, and dozens of other immortals were dispatched to the battle. Next were the Tianlong Merchant Association and the Qingyun Immortal sect, 2 prominent forces in the immortal realm. Led by Fugong Immortal and Qingyun Sovereign, they contributed 2 Earth Immortals, over 10 true immortals, and several dozen immortal elders. Finally, with the addition of mid-level forces led by true immortals, the combined might participating in this cataclysmic battle now exceeded 100 immortals. Among them were 4 Earth Immortal experts and nearly 50 true immortals. Such a force was unprecedented and terrifyingly powerful. Even the bloody battle instigated by the Liyun Valley in the past paled in comparison. This force represented nearly 80% of the immortal strength of the Western continent, about 1/5 of an entire immortal realm's might, a truly fearsome gathering of power. As Jiang Chengxuan and the various forces prepared intensely for the decisive battle, the strange tree in the ruins of Qingyun province quietly gathered strength. In the vast wasteland, the calamity chi spread outward 10 miles every day, inching ever closer to the Western continent. With each day, the tree bore more of its ominous red fruit, from which countless calamity spirits emerged. They multiplied endlessly in the black mist, like leaves sprouting on a towering tree, their numbers uncountable. These calamity beings were born from the very essence of Qingyun province, each one with formidable strength comparable to that of a perfected immortal. Combined with their natural, eerie abilities, even true immortals would struggle to escape unscathed if surrounded by them. As the storm clouds of battle gathered, both sides silently amassed their terrifying power, preparing to unleash their destructive will upon one another. Time passed swiftly, and in the blink of an eye, the final day of the 3-fortnight deadline had arrived. On this day, at the border of the Western continent, countless figures hovered in the air, each exuding an extraordinary aura euros. The scene was filled with immortals as far as the eye could see. It was hard to imagine. Over 100 immortals standing ready for battle, armed with their finest treasures, wearing their best battle robes, and their auras primed to peak condition. It was a truly awe-inspiring sight. At the forefront stood 4 Earth Immortal experts, whose every gesture commanded the power of heaven and earth. Just by standing in the void, their immense aura caused the sky for thousands of miles to shimmer with mystical light. Rainbows and immortal mist danced in the air. Leading the group, Jiang Chengxuan turned to survey the scene, nodding in satisfaction. It was clear to him that everyone understood the enormity of the coming battle. There was no fear, only burning resolve. Those who had gathered here were all elites of the immortal realm, each one a proud champion of their sects and clans. Everyone, there's no need for long speeches. This battle, you all know what's at stake, euros. There's no retreat, only victory. The path of immortality is not smooth. It's a path of struggle, euros, struggle against men, struggle against the earth, struggle against the heavens. If we do not have the resolve to fight to the death, then we cannot seize life from the jaws of death. Jiang Chengxuan, clad in battle armor, spoke with a voice like thunder that resounded across the 9 heavens, echoing through the skies as he addressed the 100 gathered immortals. His words made the gathered immortals' gazes even more resolute, and they gripped their treasures tightly, exuding an aura of grim determination. Rest assured, Sovereign. We Western continent cultivators will fight to the death in this battle. For the Alliance. For the Western continent. This calamity chi, we shall suppress it today. Voices rang out from the ranks of immortals, their fighting spirits soaring to the heavens, stirring the clouds and shaking the skies. Seeing this, Jiang Chengxuan nodded in satisfaction, turning his gaze toward the distant border. With his heightened senses, he could already feel the strange tree, rooted in the void, dropping one calamity spirit after another. Behind him, though the others couldn't sense the danger as acutely, they could still feel the oppressive aura emanating from afar, causing even the very rules of the immortal realm to tremble. Go! In the next instant, Jiang Chengxuan's eyes gleamed with sharpness, and without hesitation he shouted, transforming into a dazzling streak of light as he sped toward the enemy. In an instant, the hundreds of immortals behind him followed suit, their immortal energy flaring as they turned into beams of light and followed after him. High in the sky, their passage tore open a resplendent heavenly curtain, filled with the boundless presence of immortals, vast and majestic. The sheer power of this force caused the entire Western continent to tremble. The hundreds of miles of void before them seemed to shrink, and in mere moments, with mountains rushing by, the scene before them changed dramatically. The once radiant and glorious heavens gradually darkened and grew oppressive. Thin strands of eerie blackness began to invade the world, with thick black mist replacing the layers of immortal clouds. As they pressed on, even the very fabric of space seemed to weaken. Chapter 1387, The Earth-Shaking Battle, 4 Earth Immortals and 100 Immortals, Part 2. Chapter 1387, The Earth-Shaking Battle, 4 Earth Immortals and 100 Immortals, Part 2. Rifts in space appeared, clearly visible, exuding chaotic energy. In the distance, a vast night-like curtain descended, obscuring all senses. The aura of annihilation radiated from within, like a towering wall in the midst of the world. Beyond this dark wall, the eerie tree stood like a horrifying specter. Its endless black branches, like countless serpents, anchored themselves in the void, with crimson lightning flickering and crackling where the branches punctured the space. Seeing this, everyone held their breath, their gazes turning heavy. The oppressive terror emanating from the calamity chi was overwhelming, causing some immortals to feel their own immortal energy stalling. Roara Euros. Waila Euros. Havihia Euros. Gradually, through the deafening thunder, they began to hear a cacophony of demonic sounds Euros, cries, wails, sinister laughter Euros, each tugging at the hidden fears within their hearts. In a trance, they saw the semi-corporeal figures of calamity spirits, weaving through the web of black branches like venomous spiders waiting for prey. But these creatures were far more terrifying, born of twisted divine will and designed to spread destruction. Power of primordial chaos manifest. In an instant, having traveled the last 10,000 miles in a flash, Jiang Chengxuan charged forward, leading the vanguard. Alone, he faced the calamity that engulfed an entire part of the sky and struck first. Behind him, his earth immortal domain unfolded like a radiant wheel, shining with immortal brilliance and illuminating the dark world, scattering layers of light. In that moment, the oppressive weight that had slowed the immortals due to the calamity chi lifted, and they found themselves infused with a new strength. Under the endless calamity chi, Jiang Chengxuan's figure stood tall like the sun. The power of primordial fire expanded like wings, covering the heavens. His flames, imbued with the light of primordial chaos, forcefully tore open a new world within the calamity chi, like sunlight breaking through the longest night. And so, without warning, this earth-shattering battle began. Over 100 immortals joined the fray, battling the strange tree that had swallowed countless provinces. Following Jiang Chengxuan's lead, the hundreds of immortals shot like meteors into the black mist, their immortal energies flaring wildly. A myriad of immortal treasures were unleashed at Euros, swords, spears, axes, halberds, bows, shields Euros, each manifesting its divine power, creating a landscape of illusions. Hundreds of different Taoist laws clashed, scattering the very rules of this world. In an instant, the heavens and earth were swept clean as the gathered immortals forcefully expelled the darkness. Bright immortal light and colorful clouds burst forth from the calamity chi. Boom! 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 Hundreds of waves of immortal energy surged into the endless calamity chi, colliding with the black branches of the strange tree and the drifting spirits, each impact echoing across the heavens. A series of explosions shattered the world's sound, as if a great sun had risen in their midst, lighting up every face in a pale glow. This initial assault had a significant impact. The sudden, overwhelming attack from hundreds of immortals caught even the strange tree and the will of the great calamity by surprise. Faced with such terrifying power, even the strange tree struggled to fully defend itself. Leading the charge, Jiang Chengxuan and the Earth Immortal Sovereigns seized the moment of chaos and charged deeper into the strange tree's domain. Their goal in this battle was to penetrate as far as possible into the strange tree, to strike at its root and deliver a devastating blow to the source of the calamity. Golden Wheel. Blessed light of the world. On Jiang Chengxuan's right, the Fugong Immortal manifested his domain, which blazed with golden light. A golden wheel shot from his forehead, transforming into a radiant sun that emitted waves of blessed light. Under this light, everything it touched was purified. The strange tree's branches dissolved rapidly, melting as if consumed by invisible flames. North Star Radiance. Supreme Ice of the Immortals. On Jiang Chengxuan's left, Yuanhen Immortal also unleashed his power. His Earth Immortal domain expanded, casting an array of dazzling polar lights that illuminated the sky. Moving like a streak of aurora, Yuanhen's chilling energy froze everything in its path. Even the calamity chi was no match for the cold that shattered all in its wake. He wielded his immortal blade, slashing toward the strange tree. Each strike unleashed terrifying divine power, tearing apart miles of space. Even the stars in the heavens were cut down, turning into countless fragments of stardust. Radiance of Qingyun. Align the stars. On another front, Qingyun's sovereign refused to be outdone, unleashing his fury in battle. Though the marks of the previous battle lingered on his domain, most of its power had returned. Driven by his primordial energy, his domain shone with the green radiance of the cosmos, lighting up countless stars in the void, aligning them in a grand formation. These celestial illusions transformed into a gust of azure wind, sweeping across everything in their path, annihilating all before them. In an instant, the four Earth Immortal Sovereigns unleashed their thunderous might. The terrifying power they unleashed overshadowed the gathered immortals behind them. The vastness of their power, the sheer magnitude, was as if the heavens and earth were being split apart a sight that left all who witnessed it in awe. Boom, boom, boom. The Earth Immortals' power, their primordial energy, surged across thousands of miles, obliterating the branches of the strange tree and annihilating the calamity chi in their path. The crimson lightning and black mist were swept away in this overwhelming tide of power. The four Earth Immortals, moving like dragons, broke through the strange tree's outer defenses, cutting through to its innermost region. Seeing this, the remaining 100 immortals were invigorated. Instead of following Jiang Chengxuan and the others deeper, they engaged the calamity spirits at the outer perimeter. Forming small teams, they unleashed their immortal energy, manifesting their Taoist laws and treasures to slay the calamity spirits and shadows that emerged from the calamity chi. Buzz, buzz. At that moment, the massive strange tree finally sensed the might of Jiang Chengxuan and his companions. Ripples of dark energy erupted from its core, accompanied by black shockwaves that reverberated across the heavens. This power was like an unseen hand twisting reality, unleashing wave after wave of destruction that surged toward the sky. These surges of calamity chi, drawn from the primordial source, were as powerful as those wielded by the Earth Immortals. But even worse, the energy seemed endless, deeper and more boundless than Jiang Chengxuan and the others. Boom, boom, boom. For the first time, Jiang Chengxuan and the other four Earth Immortals met true resistance. The clash of their five powers tore the fabric of space apart, creating vast voids and patches of chaos. The ripples from their battle generated a storm of chaotic energy, stretching across the sky for thousands of miles. Even those back at the loose Cultivator Alliance could see it clearly, as if the very heavens were being torn apart. Chengxuan, you must not fail. Back at the loose Cultivator Alliance, Qin Shenwu silently prayed. Though he had some cultivation of his own, his prime had long since passed, and so he was left to guard the sect. But at this moment, his tension was no less than that of the immortals on the battlefield. In fact, waiting made the anxiety even worse. And it wasn't just Hema Euros. Across the Western continent, disciples and elders from various factions watched in silence, gazing at the terrifying storm in the distance, awed by the aura of destruction it carried. This battle would determine the fate of the entire Western continent. Chapter 1388, The Power of the Strange Tree, A Hard-Fought Battle, Part 1. Chapter 1388, The Power of the Strange Tree, A Hard-Fought Battle, Part 1. The fierce and brutal battle of the ages escalated rapidly, plunging into a white-hot intensity. Within the world shrouded by the strange tree and calamity chi, 100 immortals fought like streaks of light, their forms flashing under the protection of immortal radiance, unleashing their full power to slay the calamity spirits. One immortal alone could influence the fate of 100 miles. With 100 immortals engaged, the scope of destruction and chaos was immeasurable. Each side unleashed divine abilities. From the loose Cultivator Alliance, Qingyun Immortal Sect, and the Heavenly Dragon Merchant Guild, hundreds of unique Taoist laws from the immortal realm manifested amidst the calamity chi, forcefully creating sanctuaries that burned away the destructive will of the calamity. In the void, immortal treasures revealed their true forms. Euros, massive weapons, larger than mountain ranges, were wielded by immortal power. Each strike shattered mountains and obliterated stars, creating massive energy storms in their wake. Some immortals displayed enormous dharma forms, clad in precious armor, as if opening the heavens and splitting the earth in their might. With a wave of their hand, they summoned storms that blotted out the sun and moon. Under the collective divine abilities of these 100 immortals, the forces of the calamity were temporarily suppressed. The dark mist and the branches of the strange tree that emerged were immediately obliterated, ground into dust, unable to cross the line drawn by the immortals. The power of a single immortal might be insignificant against a calamity of this magnitude, but the combined might of 100 immortals in battle was enough to divert much of the strange tree's energy, easing the pressure on Jiang Chengxuan and the other Earth immortals. On another front of the battlefield, the 4 Earth immortals fought with increasing fervor. Each wielded their immortal treasures and unleashed the power of their domains, creating shields of primordial energy that protected their bodies as they charged deeper into the heart of the strange tree, tearing through the enemy forces with little resistance. Despite the strange tree's frequent bursts of terrifying calamity chi, the 4 Earth immortals moved as one, their cooperation seamless. Taking turns to break through enemy defenses, their pace remained swift and relentless. Buzza Euros. Suddenly, a ring of dark calamity energy surged toward Yuanhen Immortal, consuming all light and absorbing any energy in its path. Seeing this, Yuanhen's expression hardened, but he did not strike back. Instead, he flashed backward to avoid the incoming assault. In his place, another figure immediately stepped forward. Euros, Fuguang Immortal. Just as the calamity energy reached them, Fuguang unleashed his immortal power in a single devastating blow. Boom! Euros. In an instant, brilliant rays of Fuguang's divine light exploded forth, accompanied by the melodic chant of celestial hymns. A radiant light, as if a second sun had appeared in the sky, purified everything in its path. The clash of these two terrifying forces shook the very heavens. The branches of the strange tree, rooted deep in the void, cracked and splintered under the impact. Under the violent aftershock, the space around them fractured, a silver storm of sharp winds raging through the shattered sky. "I'll take over." At that moment, a figure burst forth from behind Fuguang Immortal, accompanied by a thunderous roar. It was none other than Qingyun's sovereign. Summoning the boundless power of the azure clouds, Qingyun's sovereign unleashed his primordial energy, forcefully suppressing the storm of aftershocks. Even the fractured void was smoothed over, as a radiant blue pathway materialized beneath his feet. With their formation shifting seamlessly, Qingyun's sovereign took the lead, while the others followed closely behind. Without hesitation, they charged deeper into the vast darkness. The further they ventured, the thicker the darkness became. After several more fierce clashes, even Jiang Chengxuan's perception began to dim. His senses could no longer extend far into the surroundings. It was as though they had entered a vast, black abyss. Beyond their own immortal light and the occasional flash of crimson lightning, nothing was visible. A low, eerie hum resonated through the dark, as if the strange tree was emitting some sort of demonic sound. However, Jiang Chengxuan and the others remained undeterred. They clung to their Taoist hearts, unwavering in their resolve. No force, no matter how insidious, could shake their determination. Something feels wrong. As the eerie silence grew, Jiang Chengxuan, now leading the formation, paused. After advancing for another 100 miles, A sense of unease suddenly washed over him, prompting him to mutter aloud. For reasons he couldn't explain, he realized that the strange tree's resistance had not only failed to intensify, but had, in fact, weakened. The attacks were growing less frequent and less forceful euros, an anomaly that defied logic. Without hesitation, Jiang Chengxuan halted his advance, stopping in the middle of the suffocating darkness, like a lone star in the night. The others quickly followed suit, their expressions serious as they too came to a stop. "What's the matter, Chengxuan?" Yuanhen Immortal's voice was tinged with urgency as he questioned their sudden halt. In a battle of such magnitude, speed and aggression were key. Pausing now risked losing the momentum they had built. However, no one blamed or doubted Jiang Chengxuan. His reputation and instincts had earned their trust. If he chose to stop, there had to be a valid reason. "Something's not right. The strange tree's resistance should have intensified as we advanced, but it's growing weaker. This defies logic." Jiang Chengxuan wasted no time explaining his thoughts, his voice steady and sure. Hearing this, the others exchanged worried glances. It hadn't occurred to them until now, but upon reflection, they realized Jiang Chengxuan was right. "This does seem strange," Fuguang Immortal muttered, falling into deep thought. "So what should we do?" King Yun Sovereign, also perplexed, asked. In the heart of the strange tree's domain, even their earth immortal senses were heavily suppressed, making them feel as though they were fighting blind. Despite their immense power, even earth immortals struggled to understand the situation unfolding around them. Chapter 1389, The Power of the Strange Tree, A Hard-Fought Battle, Part 2. Chapter 1389, The Power of the Strange Tree, A Hard-Fought Battle, Part 2. Without a doubt, the strange tree had certainly enacted some insidious scheme. Rumble! But before anyone could ponder further, another wave of calamity chi erupted from the darkness. A massive curtain of black loomed overhead, crashing down. In an instant, Jiang Chengxuan's eyes narrowed. His domain exploded with radiant light, and the power of his primal water and fire sword materialized. A crimson blaze and a blue celestial river surged forth, tearing through the sky. The forces collided once again, triggering a terrifying storm as primal water and fire clashed with the calamity energy, scattering across the void. It was a scene they had witnessed countless times before. Could it be? But this time, as Jiang Chengxuan observed the ongoing confrontation, a terrifying realization dawned on him. "Assist me." Without retreating from the aftermath, Jiang Chengxuan charged upward, reversing the tide. His domain expanded once again, manifesting layers of primordial power. In the void, a massive star composed of primal water and fire rose, gathering endless energy before unleashing a colossal beam of light, as thick as a mountain, surging toward the source of the calamity. Understood. Without hesitation, Yuanhen Immortal and the others followed Jiang Chengxuan's lead. Although unsure of his plan, they trusted his judgment. In a flash, the three immortals ascended alongside him, their domains surging with primordial force. A massive, river-like beam of light followed Jiang Chengxuan's strike. Four earth immortal powers merged, shaking the heavens and splitting the earth. In the blink of an eye, their combined attack crossed hundreds of miles, cleaving through the darkness like the dawn breaking through chaos. That's the Calamity Chi Wall. At last, as the light carved through the black abyss, the group finally saw what lay ahead. Instead of the strange tree's core, they were confronted by the terrifying sight of the Calamity Chi Wall. "It's the strange tree's power. It subtly manipulated the spatial fabric of the world and deceived us all," murmured King Yun Sovereign, astonished. He was shaken as the truth dawned on him. As the four earth immortals had been concentrating on breaking through to the strange tree's core, the strange tree had silently enacted its plan. While one part of its power was used to launch repeated waves of calamity to slow their advance, the strange tree had covertly manipulated space itself, shifting their direction without them even realizing it. Unbeknownst to them, they had been advancing toward the Calamity Chi Wall, not the strange tree's core. Even the four Earth Immortal experts had been completely fooled at euros. Such was the terrifying cunning of the strange tree. Had it not been for Jiang Chengxuan's cautious nature and his attentiveness to the surrounding environment, they would have continued charging forward, thinking they were nearing the strange tree's heart, only to find themselves at the base of the Calamity Chi Wall. Had that happened, they would have walked straight into a trap of euros, ensnared between the Calamity Chi Wall and the strange tree's forces. Even four Earth immortal experts would struggle to escape from such a dire situation. The strange tree's strategies are beyond imagination. "We were almost caught in its web," remarked Fuguang Immortal, wiping the sweat from his brow. They had initially thought their surprise attack had granted them an advantage, only to realize that the strange tree had outmaneuvered them, dampening their momentum with its deception. "Guard me with your domains. I will divine its true location through heavenly calculations," Jiang Chengxuan instructed without hesitation. He took out his heavenly calculation compass, seated himself within his domain, and began channeling the power of heavenly fate to trace the threads of cause and effect. The oppressive darkness made it difficult to grasp the web of causality. Nonetheless, Yuanhen Immortal and the others understood the gravity of the situation. Without delay, they positioned themselves around Jiang Chengxuan, forming a protective formation with their domains, opening a channel to the outside world. With their support, the forces of cause and effect became clearer for Jiang Chengxuan. As the threads of fate unraveled before him, he adopted a cunning approach to pinpoint the strange tree's location. Rather than directly divining the strange tree's position a euros, which would risk engaging with its powerful causality a euros, he focused on locating the other 100 immortals. By calculating their relative positions, he could deduce the true location of the strange tree. This method minimized interference from the strange tree's powers and made use of his familiarity with the allied immortals, yielding faster and more accurate results. As expected, before long, Jiang Chengxuan's mind illuminated with clarity. He pinpointed the position of the 100 immortals, and from there, he triangulated the exact location of the strange tree. "These pills can resist calamity energy. Take them to guard against potential dangers," Jiang Chengxuan said quickly, standing up with confidence. Without wasting time, he distributed the calamity resistance pills he had prepared to the group. He then released a beam of profound light from his mind, extending it through the dark void to reveal the direction of the strange tree. "Let's go." After consuming the pills, the group's form surged with renewed power, and they charged forward in a united formation once more. This time, there were no unexpected surprises. As they advanced, the attacks from the strange tree became fiercer and more frequent. To the group, this was a relief euros. It confirmed that they were on the right path. With their battle spirits reignited, the group pressed on. The calamity energy grew more oppressive, but their power rose to meet the challenge, blazing through the sky. As they tore through one wave of calamity after another, the crimson lightning grew more intense, and the branches of the strange tree blocking their way became thicker and more formidable. Roar euros. Soon, powerful calamity spirits began to materialize before them. Amidst the streaking figures of Jiang Chengxuan and his companions, black tornadoes suddenly surged from the ground, stretching up into the heavens. The calamitous energy rent deep fissures in the earth, and towering calamity spirits, both ethereal and solid, appeared on their path, roaring in fury. These newly formed calamity spirits appeared as shapeless clouds, constantly shifting form. Mysterious runes flickered within their bodies, radiating an aura of destruction. Each of these spirits was as massive as a mountain, their bodies overflowing with calamity energy that even Jiang Chengxuan and the others could not dismiss. "Quickly clear the path," Jiang Chengxuan shouted, issuing his command without hesitation. Immediately, the four Earth immortals spread out, transforming into rivers of light as they charged toward the largest of the calamity spirits. Boom a euros. In an instant, the power of Earth immortals exploded without mercy. Rays of extreme light, divine radiance, azure clouds, primal water and fire, the five elements, life and death, and reincarnation of euros, all surged to their peak within a single breath, opening up a new world. Lightning fast, the four Earth immortals clashed with the terrifying calamity spirits. They moved like lords of the heavens, undeterred by the vast darkness. Even with their enemy wielding immense power, they pressed forward, bathed in divine light, bearing the weight of their celestial domains with unshakable resolve. Every strike of their divine abilities was imbued with supreme power, summoning the primordial forces of the world. From within their domains, primordial energy erupted in torrents, locking in fierce combat with the calamity spirits. In the heart of the darkness, flashes of blinding light broke through, and the colossal calamity spirits shuddered, staggered back, and roared in fury as blades and swords as vast as the sky cut deep into their forms, filling even these fearsome entities with dread. Chapter 1390, Deep into the Strange Tree, the Pseudo-Earth Immortal Puppet Part 1. Chapter 1390, Deep into the Strange Tree, the Pseudo-Earth Immortal Puppet Part 1. The battle on the outermost edge, where 100 immortals fought the calamity spirits, had reached its most brutal and intense phase. The entire battlefield had been devastated, reduced to fragmented void and ruins. Numerous stars had fallen from their celestial tracks, forming trails of burning meteors, swirling endlessly amidst the storm, booming with deafening noise. Fortunately, Jiang Chengxuan had foreseen this outcome and arranged for the battle to take place beyond the borders of West Continent. Otherwise, the entire continent would have been drawn into the calamity and suffered immense losses. Thunder of life and death. Thunder God's command. 5 Thunder Immortal Sword. Manifest. Leading the scattered cultivators of the Alliance, Shen Ruyan had long assumed her thunder form. She was cloaked in both primal divine thunder and life and death thunder, her feet planted firmly on divine wind. Her battle style was ferocious and unyielding, sweeping across the heavens with destructive might. Behind her, 2 thunder deities roared, wielding giant maces that shook the void. Each strike summoned pools of thunder from the sky, causing the heavens to erupt in thunderous explosions. After absorbing the immortal calamity thunder from Nan Stone Forest, her cultivation had surged to near perfection in the true immortal realm. Her attacks were now imbued with destructive, near-primordial power, overwhelming even the calamity energy. Boom! Another calamity spirit was obliterated in Shen Ruyan's hands with a thunderous strike. She had lost count of how many calamity spirits she had slain by this point. However, the other scattered cultivators around her all gazed at her with astonished expressions. The skies had been entirely engulfed by calamity chi, and every inch of space was filled with the aura of calamity spirits. The fall of immortals was inevitable. Under the relentless assault of countless calamity spirits, some immortals from the Heavenly Dragon Trading Company, Qingyun Immortal Sect, and other allied sects had already perished, their paths severed from the heavens. Yet the scattered cultivators led by Shen Ruyan stood out. Thanks to her overwhelming power, which neared the peak of true immortal, and her mastery of the primal divine thunder, they were able to hold off most of the calamity spirits and energies, keeping their people alive amidst the chaos. The situation here is stable, but I wonder how my husband is faring. Despite annihilating yet another calamity spirit, Shen Ruyan wasn't overjoyed. Her heart was heavy with worry for Jiang Chengxuan. She knew that the true deciding factor of this battle did not lie with them. No matter how well they fared here, even if they suppressed all the calamity energy, as long as the Earth immortal level battle failed to defeat the strange tree, it would all be in vain. Once the strange tree fully manifested, even if all the 100 immortals joined forces, they would be no match for its devouring power. The difference in raw power between them was like an insurmountable chasm. At the same time, in the location where Shen Ruyan's thoughts were focused, the other battlefield was equally intense, with the very laws of nature being ground to dust. The void had been filled with various immortal powers and calamity energy, turning the space into a chaotic storm. Towering calamity spirits, each with a power nearing the peak of true immortal, were being ruthlessly suppressed and slain by Jiang Chengxuan and his companions. As these spirits fell, the resulting shockwaves and the energy released from their shattered forms created a massive storm, spanning thousands of miles, with chaotic energy spilling over the heavens. Within the chaos, only the radiant figures of Jiang Chengxuan and his 3 companions stood like immortal stars. They radiated divine light, manifesting a myriad of phenomena, pushing back the darkness and annihilating their foes. Behind Jiang Chengxuan, the laws of the 5 elements, reincarnation and life and death had all manifested. A black and white river of life and death snaked through the void, while the divine lotus of the 5 elements bloomed and withered endlessly. Between its opening and closing, the power of reincarnation twisted the void, locking down calamity spirits. In an instant, the 3 great Tao laws smashed into the calamity spirits, tearing massive holes in their bodies of calamity energy, causing black fog to pour out. We can't afford to delay any longer. Go! In a flash, after the path was cleared once again, and another massive calamity spirit fell, Jiang Chengxuan's eyes gleamed as he commanded his companions. Yuanhin Immortal, Qingyun Sovereign, and Fuguang Immortal reacted swiftly, withdrawing their manifested powers and shielding themselves. They followed Jiang Chengxuan as he led the charge past the gathering shadows, advancing further into the heart of the strange tree. This space was completely enveloped by the strange tree's domain. No matter how many times the calamity spirits were defeated, they would eventually regenerate under the tree's influence. Thus, fighting here held no purpose. Their goal was the core of the strange tree. Warriors, warriors. Suddenly, the surrounding darkness began to squirm, and waves of calamity fog turned into wind, emitting mournful wails like ghostly howls. Jiang Chengxuan and his companions advanced without fear, their domains shielding them as they cut through the barriers of calamity energy, pressing deeper into the dark abyss. Along the way, red lightning rained down like a meteor storm, and pitch-black calamity spirits formed massive hands that tried to crush them, shattering large swaths of the void. But these obstacles were insufficient to stop Jiang Chengxuan and his companions. With the power of their earth immortal domains sustaining them, they fought relentlessly, growing stronger with each battle. By now, the surrounding area was completely devoid of immortal energy, replaced entirely by calamity energy. Without the strength of earth immortals, even moving forward would be impossible. Time flowed on, cold and indifferent, as they pressed further into the heart of the calamity. Chapter 1391, The Core of the Strange Tree, the Pseudo-Earth Immortal Puppets Part 2. Chapter 1391, The Core of the Strange Tree, the Pseudo-Earth Immortal Puppets Part 2. Gradually, Jiang Chengxuan and his companions lost track of how far they had traveled and how long it had been. Along the way, they cut down everything in their path, their hearts growing colder with each strike, filled with icy resolve. Finally, at a certain point, the suffocating darkness that surrounded them began to change. It was as though they had pierced through a black curtain, and everything before them underwent a sudden and dramatic shift. In the void, the endless branches of the strange tree still stood, deeply rooted in the space around them. Yet these branches, instead of appearing dark and eerie, now radiated an inexplicable sense of holiness. They resembled celestial cords, connecting heaven and earth, creating a grand and magnificent spectacle. The darkness was slowly giving way as light returned to the sky, no longer swallowed by the black fog. Through the cracks in the shattered void, countless rays of divine light shone down thousands, tens of thousands of euros, illuminating the world, making it appear dreamlike and surreal. The entire space was filled with a power unlike any ordinary spiritual energy, and this power deeply shocked Jiang Chengxuan and his companions. This is all origin energy. Immediately, King Yun's sovereign's voice rang out, astonished. His face was filled with disbelief. He could sense that the indistinct energy permeating this void was pure origin energy euros, one of the most fundamental forces in the universe. Origin energy typically only appeared in small quantities within certain paradise-like places or rare treasures that had taken millions of years to form. Earth immortals required origin energy for cultivation, but it was so rare that even they struggled to obtain it. To cultivate with origin energy usually took eons of searching for the right opportunity. And yet here at Wasa Euros, an entire realm filled with it, something that stunned everyone present. If we could cultivate here, even Earth immortals could advance further. King Yun's sovereign marveled, greed and ambition stirring within him. Wait, this isn't pure origin energy. It's contaminated by something, Jiang Chengxuan interrupted, extending his hand into the void and gripping the energy. He frowned as he studied it. The others, snapping out of their initial awe, immediately used their Earth immortal domains to sense the energy more carefully. What they discovered left them equally unsettled. Indeed, just as Jiang Chengxuan had said, the origin energy here was vast, but it was not pure. Mixed within it was something dark and sinister euros, some corrupting force. This must be the energy the strange tree has siphoned from Qingyun Prefecture, Fuguang immortals solemnly concluded, echoing what was already in everyone's minds. It was clear that they had reached the core of the strange tree's domain. This corrupted origin energy could only have been drawn from Qingyun Prefecture, ravaged by the tree. Damn this calamity! King Yun's sovereign growled through gritted teeth, his face burning with anger. Even though he had known the fate of Qingyun Prefecture the moment he evacuated his sect, seeing it firsthand filled him with sorrow and rage. The Qingyun sect had ruled over Qingyun Prefecture for countless generations, spanning tens of thousands of years. And now, under his leadership, it had all been destroyed. Rumble! Before anyone could continue, the strange atmosphere of the space began to change, pulling everyone's attention. The void trembled, and the branches of the strange tree, which resembled heavenly cords, started to writhe violently. They uprooted themselves from the space around them and swung wildly like countless eerie hands, disturbing the fabric of the universe itself. As the branches writhed, the lights illuminating the space flickered unpredictably, casting an eerie glow that filled the sky with blinding bursts of light and shadow. The energy in the air surged like an overwhelming tidal wave, shaking the world to its core. For a moment, everyone felt as though they were deep beneath an ocean, the weight of the heavens pressing down upon them. The violent eruption of origin energy carried unimaginable destructive power. Even Xianxia and his Earth immortal companions, sensing the danger, stood their ground. Their eyes grew serious as they summoned their powers, aligning their Earth immortal domains into a unified defense. 4 towering pillars of origin energy formed around them, stabilizing their immediate surroundings. Despite their strength, this spacia Euros, filled with raw chaotic energy Euros, posed a serious threat even to Earth immortals. Boom, boom, boom. In the blink of an eye, waves of origin energy clashed violently in the void. The ensuing shockwaves were deafening, sending ripples across the heavens, scattering beams of light in every direction. This one wave of energy was far more terrifying than anything they had faced so far. Buzz, buzz. But the strange tree had only just begun its true assault. From above, the branches of the tree tore at the heavens, pulling the fabric of the void apart, revealing gaping cracks in reality itself. As Xianxia and his companions looked on in alarm, radiant light poured through these cracks. Following the light came numerous figures, quickly filling the sky, clinging to the branches of the strange tree. A dreadful aura of destruction emanated from these figures, and the ambient origin energy seemed to heed their call, surging toward them, flooding into their bodies. What? All eyes turned to these figures as they emerged from the void, horror dawning on the faces of Xianxia and his companions. These are puppets. Yuanhin Immortal cried out, recognizing the truth. These figures were not spirits but puppets of Euros, immortal cultivators who had been slain by the calamity and turned into puppets by the strange tree. Each of these puppets emanated the aura of a true immortal, their numbers vast, filling the sky like a murder of crows perched upon the branches of the strange tree. Even worse, as these puppets absorbed more of the origin energy, their power visibly increased, growing stronger by the second. In a matter of moments, they had reached the peak of the true immortal realm, with some surpassing it to attain a pseudo-Earth immortal level of strength. Seeing this, a chill ran down everyone's spine. None could guess how many of these pseudo-Earth immortal puppets might still be created from the vast ocean of origin energy around them. Strike now. Don't hold back, Euros. Stop these puppets before they fully awaken. Xianxia ordered sharply, immediately making his decision. Without hesitation, he summoned his Earth immortal domain, transforming it into a vast ray of celestial light as he launched himself toward the puppets, aiming to destroy them before they could grow stronger. Yuanhin Immortal and the others quickly followed suit, unleashing their Earth immortal powers and charging through the chaotic energy toward the puppets. But this was the heart of the strange tree's domain, and the trees will controlled everything here. The moment Xianxia moved, the strange tree responded. The newly formed pseudo-Earth immortal puppets roared to life, and the branches of the strange tree surged alongside them, descending like a vast wave to meet the assault head-on. Boom! Instantly, a colossal battle erupted. 10 pseudo-Earth immortal puppets and the branches of the strange tree, infused with origin energy, clashed with the 4 Earth immortals. Xianxia and his allies held nothing back, unleashing their ultimate powers. The primal fire and water sword, the northern pole divine light, the myriad celestial clouds, and the endless blessed light exploded forth, tearing through the void. The powers collided violently with the strange tree's forces, shattering the heavens and creating an apocalyptic storm that consumed everything. Even as the chaotic energy raged on, the puppets continued to absorb the origin energy, becoming even stronger. Chapter 1392, Failure at the Last Moment, Eternal Doom, Part 1. Chapter 1392, Failure at the Last Moment, Eternal Doom, Part 1. The once peaceful and serene world had suddenly transformed into a hellish landscape of danger. The vast storm of origin energy ravaged the void, while the snake-like branches of the strange tree tore everything apart. Meanwhile, the puppets continued to absorb the surrounding energy, growing stronger by the second. These puppets were nearly indistinguishable from regular cultivators, except for the long thorn-like tendrils that protruded from their heads and bodies, as if some plant had taken root inside them. As their auras surged, the tendrils writhed and extended, even piercing through their robes exposed to the air. Beneath the surface of their skin, root-like structures were visible, forming an intricate network of veins and spirit lines, akin to a second set of meridians, coursing through their entire bodies. Five-element life and death lotus. Wheel of reincarnation. Amid the storm, Jiang Chengxuan knew that this was the critical moment. He had to stop the growth of the puppets at all costs. With a wave of his hand, the five-element Tao and the Tao of reincarnation and life and death expanded into a powerful display. Lotus blossoms, formed from the five elements and imbued with the powers of life and death, floated through the air, cutting through the dense branches of the strange tree. The power of reincarnation inverted the laws of the world around him, creating a gravitational force that pulled in all the surrounding branches of the tree. Boom! The next moment, an overwhelming explosion shattered the void, ripping apart the black branches of the strange tree. The ground cleared, and a space free from corruption was created. Without wasting a second, Jiang Chengxuan charged forward, his body encased in celestial light. Like a bolt of lightning, he cut through the chaotic currents, aiming for the puppets greedily absorbing the origin energy. But before he could reach them, several figures emerged, arranging themselves into a formation in the void, intent on stopping him. These figures were the puppets that had already fully matured, their power rivaling that of pseudo-Earth immortals. Though they lacked the strength of a true Earth immortal due to their absence of a celestial domain, their numbers made up for it. In front of Jiang Chengxuan, 7 puppets unleashed their divine powers simultaneously, manifesting an array of phenomena euros: wind, fire, water, earth, and lightning. Their attacks, infused with both origin and calamity energy, devoured the surrounding space, shattering it into countless fragments. Primal water and fire sword rise. Seeing this, Jiang Chengxuan's eyes grew cold. The light from his celestial domain flared, releasing an immense wave of origin energy as he prepared to face the 7 puppets head-on. From within his domain, the rivers of blue and red light euros, the primal water and fire euros, rose into the air, forming a celestial river that rushed toward the puppets' combined attacks. Boom! Boom! The forces of primal creation and the origin energy collided violently, shaking the heavens. The resulting shockwave twisted time and space, creating cracks that spread like a spider's web across the sky. The power of the collision was so intense that even Jiang Chengxuan had to retreat momentarily, unwilling to take the full brunt of the aftershocks. But retreating would only allow the puppets more time to absorb the origin energy, growing ever stronger. At that moment, from behind Jiang Chengxuan, a blinding surge of extreme light cut through the chaos, calming the raging space and dispersing the swirling energy. Chengxuan, I'll hold them off. You go ahead. It was Yuanhen Immortal's voice. Behind him, Fuguang Immortal and Qingyun Sovereign had temporarily suppressed the other puppets and calamity spirits, freeing Yuanhen Immortal to assist Jiang Chengxuan in breaking through. Understood, Jiang Chengxuan shouted back, wasting no time. His celestial energy surged as he followed Yuanhen Immortal's trail of extreme light, moving like a comet through the stars. The 7 puppets hadn't expected the sudden assault and were momentarily taken aback. Before they could react, Yuanhen Immortal's long blade was already slashing toward them, blocking their path. With the path clear ahead of him, nothing stood between Jiang Chengxuan and the puppets still in the process of absorbing the origin energy. Breathing deeply, he concentrated all his power, his body wrapped in silver spatial energy. With the primal water and fire sword leading the charge, he transformed into a blazing meteor, streaking across the sky and piercing through layers of space. In an instant, time itself seemed to slow down as Jiang Chengxuan appeared before the puppets. These figures, their bodies intertwined with the roots of the strange tree, greedily absorbed the swirling vortex of origin energy surrounding them. Cut! Without hesitation, Jiang Chengxuan gripped the primal water and fire sword with both hands. He raised it high above his head in a crescent arc, before bringing it down with a thunderous slash. Boom! 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 With each strike, waves of primal water and fire surged across the sky. Chapter 1393, Failure at the Last Moment, Eternal Doom, Part 2. Chapter 1393, Failure at the Last Moment, Eternal Doom, Part 2. The power surged to a terrifying level. The force extended for hundreds of miles, even pushing back the branches of the strange tree. Then, in the next instant, this immense power contracted abruptly, concentrating entirely in Jiang Chengxuan's primal water and fire sword. With one slash, endless light pierced through the heavens, and everyone felt as if they had been transported into the heart of a blazing sun. Every inch of space was flooded with the overwhelming power of primal water and fire, brushing past their senses. Anything standing in the way of this sword strike was obliterated by the pure essence of primal energy. The opposing forces of water and fire collided, triggering destruction and annihilation. Boom! Boom! The deafening roar of thunder echoed throughout the universe, and countless branches of the strange tree were severed in an instant. Wu Euros! Even the strange tree, the embodiment of calamity, sensed the impending doom. A mournful wail echoed across the entire space, as if the heavens themselves were weeping. The eerie sound sent a shiver through the hearts of Yuanhen Immortal and the others. But in this moment of devastation, many of the strange tree's branches, along with the calamity spirits and puppets, recoiled. For now, they did not press forward. Did we succeed? In stunned disbelief, King Yun's sovereign muttered, his voice full of uncertainty. Jiang Chengxuan's sword strike had unleashed a force more terrifying than anything King Yun had ever witnessed in his life, even surpassing the power of the strange tree beneath the black wall. As a fellow Earth immortal, King Yun's sovereign knew he would not have been able to withstand such a blow. Heroes are born in chaotic times, King Yun thought to himself with a mixture of awe and respect. He reflected on the cycles of history, order and chaos, rise and fall, stability followed by upheaval, and the inevitable return to peace. In these critical junctures, heaven always seemed to give rise to extraordinary individuals who carried the weight of destiny and guided the world through these transitions. In King Yun's sovereign's eyes, Jiang Chengxuan was one such figure. Euros, an unknown ascendant who had risen to fame with astonishing speed, seizing the limelight in this era of turmoil. It was hard to believe this was mere coincidence. It seemed more like destiny at work. Euros. A strange hum broke King Yun's chain of thoughts. The violent energies in the void began to dissipate, and the blinding light gradually faded. The sun that had illuminated the battlefield sank back into the void. All eyes turned to Jiang Chengxuan, who now stood alone in the midst of the fading storm, his figure cloaked in the shimmering aura of primal water and fire, like a lone beacon of light in a desolate world. For a brief moment, relief washed over the group. But in the next instant, that hope was shattered. On the other side of the storm, opposite Jiang Chengxuan's grim expression, a dazzling and distorted light screen stood tall, cutting through the chaos. The deep chasms in the void, carved by his primal water and fire sword, came to an abrupt halt against this luminous barrier. The sight sent an icy chill through the hearts of all those present. The terrible realization dawned upon Thema Euros. Jiang Chengxuan's most powerful strike had been stopped by this twisted, radiant screen. Amidst the swirling storm, they could see shattered remnants of some puppets, their broken bodies scattered across the battlefield. But it was clear that most of the puppets had survived, protected by the light screen. With pure origin power, Yuanhen Immortal and the others extended their senses, quickly identifying the nature of the radiant screen. It was composed of incredibly pure origin energy, far more concentrated than the ambient origin energy that filled this space. It was so potent that it was better described as an origin artifact to Euros, crafted from the vast energies the strange tree had devoured, forming a golden shield around itself. Crack, crack, crack. Before anyone could fully process this revelation, the screen began to crack. The sound of tearing and shattering echoed in the void, and beams of light shot forth from the fissures, flooding the area with dazzling radiance. The overwhelming force of this origin energy caused the Earth Immortals to instinctively reinforce their celestial domains, yet even their domains trembled slightly under its pressure. Boom! 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 In the next moment, the light screen burst open, and a torrent of figures emerged, streaming out like a murder of crows. Blackened silhouettes filled the sky, spreading out like a tide, their presence oppressive as they hovered above, gazing down upon the battlefield. There was no need for explanations of euros. These were the puppets, forged by the strange tree's divine powers. But now each puppet glowed with a divine light, their eyes shining with sentience. The tendrils growing from their bodies shimmered with immortal radiance, and origin energy surged from within them. Every single one of them had completed the transformation into pseudo-earth immortal beings. The sight left Fuguang immortal, Qingyun sovereign, and the others gasping in shock. Even Jiang Chengxuan clenched his jaw, his expression grave. The pseudo-earth immortal puppets stood in the sky like stars, and a rough count revealed there were at least 81 of them. This meant that each member of the group would have to face at least 20 of these powerful enemies. The odds were utterly bleak. Facing 3 or 10 opponents was one thing, but how could anyone hope to fend off 20 at once? Even a team of 20 true immortals would give an Earth immortal reason to be cautious, let alone these pseudo-Earth immortal puppets, who were far stronger than ordinary true immortals. These puppets could wield origin energy, bridging the gap between them and the Earth immortals. Their sheer numbers created a crushing advantage. And to make matters worse, the battlefield itself was filled with boundless origin energy euros, energy that Jiang Chengxuan and his companions could not absorb, but which the puppets freely fed upon. This realm had essentially become a celestial domain tailor-made for the puppets, designed by the strange tree to be their perfect battleground. For Jiang Chengxuan and the others, it had become their grave. The tide of battle shifted in an instant. Just moments ago, Jiang Chengxuan and his allies held the upper hand, breaking through the puppet defenses. But now, the emergence of this radiant origin shield had turned the tables, casting them into a seemingly inescapable abyss. Everyone, we must decide quickly a euros, do we retreat or fight? Jiang Chengxuan withdrew to the side of Fuguang Immortal and the others, his eyes sharp and his voice firm. He gazed at the sea of powerful puppets, his expression unflinching, though he knew full well that he couldn't defeat them all alone. Now, the group needed to make a critical decision. A single moment of doubt from anyone could spell disaster in a battle of this magnitude. As things stood, their situation wasn't entirely hopeless. With the combined strength and techniques of the 4 Earth Immortals, they still had a chance to force their way out of this place. But Jiang Chengxuan needed to be certain of euros. Did they still have the will to fight? Retreat. Where could we possibly retreat to? Qingyun Sovereign was the first to speak up, his voice echoing through the void. The strange tree has amassed such power that it's determined to claim the Western continent. Today, even if we face death, we must stand and fight. We cannot retreat. Ever since Qingyun Sovereign had led his sect away from the ruins of Qingyun Province, he had sworn to himself that the next time he had a chance to fight back, he would not shy away, no matter the cost. And now that chance had finally arrived. He would not be deterred by fear of death. Indeed, Fuguang Immortal added, his gaze resolute as he looked at Jiang Chengxuan. The Western continent is behind us. If we retreat, who will stand to protect them? Fuguang, too, had suffered under the calamity. The Tianlong Merchant Guild had struggled through countless hardships to rebuild itself, and now, with the threat of annihilation looming, he would rather fight to the death than face the possibility of wandering the world once again. Yuanhen Immortal simply nodded at Jiang Chengxuan, saying nothing. He understood why Jiang Chengxuan had posed the question of euros. It wasn't out of fear or hesitation. Jiang Chengxuan was merely gauging whether the group still had the resolve to fight. From beginning to end, Jiang Chengxuan had been the true leader of this battle. Chapter 1394. The Situation is Dire, 2 Major Crises, Part 1. Chapter 1394. The Situation is Dire, 2 Major Crises, Part 1. Very well. Since everyone has made this decision, I, Jiang Chengxuan, will accompany you, even if it costs my life. These puppets, though small in power, should not be underestimated. Be on your guard. Faced with the resolute expressions of his companions, Jiang Chengxuan nodded, speaking in a low, serious tone. Hearing this, the others exchanged glances, all nodding in agreement as they steeled themselves for the deadly battle ahead. As they were exchanging words in the void above, the countless pseudo-Earth immortal puppets had already transformed into fleeting shadows, silently shifting positions, spreading across the entire battlefield. Each of these pseudo-Earth immortal puppets was brimming with an astonishing aura of primordial energy, like stars drifting in the celestial expanse, constantly shifting and rotating. In the midst of this, the group's path of retreat was swiftly cut off by the encircling puppets. In the span of mere moments, they had lost the final opportunity to escape from this place unscathed. Suspended in the void, the 81 Sudworth immortal puppets glared at them with fierce, angry expressions, their faces twisted in rage. Each puppet wielded celestial treasures, emanating radiant celestial light, resembling a vast net that completely encased Jiang Chengxuan and his companions. Yet despite the daunting situation, Jiang Chengxuan and his allies, already determined to fight, did not waver. Each of them stood in their respective positions of Euros, north, south, east, and west of Euros, standing tall and unwavering. Their celestial garments fluttered in the wind, exuding the aura of true Earth immortals. In the celestial realm, anyone who could attain the rank of Earth immortal was undoubtedly a peerless talent who had survived countless trials, dangers, and brushes with death. Such individuals may choose caution in their everyday cultivation, but in life-or-death situations, they could unleash a ferocious sharpness, comparable to the most ruthless warriors who had fought through mountains of corpses and seas of blood. Buzz of Euros. This time, just like before, a mysterious vibration signaled the beginning. The void trembled, and in the next moment, the 81 Sudworth immortal puppets simultaneously unleashed their primordial energy from all directions, pressing down on Jiang Chengxuan and his group. In an instant, it was as if the world had descended into chaos, with demons running wild and heaven and earth flipping over. The overwhelming power of the Earth immortals came crashing down like mountains and tidal waves, overturning the entire world. Nearly 100 divine attacks descended upon them at once, with just the residual shockwaves causing the void to shatter inch by inch, twisting even the laws of the universe. The world before them plunged into a state of chaos, with brilliant streams of multicolored light filling every corner of the void. It was as if countless massive, rainbow-hued hands were grasping at them from all directions. Strike with full force. At this, Jiang Chengxuan shouted, and without hesitation, everyone instantly unleashed their celestial powers to the fullest, channeling the power of their Earth immortal abodes to the utmost. In a flash, 4 celestial abodes from different directions expanded, growing with the wind and forcefully holding up a protective dome. Even amidst the chaos, they stood firm, unyielding. One abode operated the laws of the 5 elements, constantly rotating between life, death, reincarnation, and the power of creation. The primordial essence of water and fire filled the skies, forming a majestic display of multicolored clouds, the mightiest of all forces. Another abode brimmed with endless azure clouds. Within these clouds, mountains and rivers rose and fell, and the vast universe shone with immortal light, radiating an indomitable brilliance. Beside this abode, another gleamed with waves of blessed light. Auspicious stars hung high, and numerous mystical beasts danced in the air, filling the skies with radiant treasures and good fortune. The final abode was cold and deep, filled with endless ice peaks and eternal winds. Above the boundless night sky, dazzling auroras rippled and shimmered, ancient and vast. Even in the face of the 81 Sudworth immortal puppets' combined attacks, the power of these 4 celestial abodes was formidable, rising to meet the onslaught head-on. Together, the 4 abodes united, forcing back the falling heavens. Under the stern gazes of the 4, the brilliance of their combined laws shone through the chaos, unleashing wave after wave of devastating counterattacks. Boom! 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 Thus, the tremendous power of the Earth immortals clashed fiercely in every direction, filling the world with thunderous explosions. The overwhelming noise eventually drowned out all other sounds, and even the heavens themselves began to collapse under the sheer weight of the power unleashed. Countless stars were ripped from the skies, crumbling and falling, and the very laws of existence were obliterated in the process. Arg! Amidst this, Jiang Chengxuan and his 3 companions bore the brunt of the impact. King Yun Zunjing, Azure Cloud Patriarch, let out a low roar, barely halting his descent. Of them all, he was the eldest, and, having already fought numerous battles, was beginning to show signs of fatigue. Still driven by the fire of his anger and unshakable resolve, he remained standing, refusing to fall. Buzz of Euros. In the blink of an eye, the fierce aftershocks whipped up storms of chaos, reducing everything around them to nothingness. The scattered remnants of divine laws crackled in the space around them, flitting through the cracks in reality. This strange and dangerous realm had plunged into utter disorder and devastation. Are these mere puppets? Let's see how strong they really are. At this, Xianxia Immortal snorted coldly, stepping forward as he traversed the battlefield like a streak of aurora, cutting through the debris-laden currents. He was the first to engage the pseudo-earth immortal puppets directly. Jiang Chengxuan followed closely behind, with Qingyun Zunzheng and Fugong Immortal, also knowing that they needed to take the initiative. Without waiting for the puppets to regroup, they gathered their primordial energy and launched a fierce assault. These pseudo-earth immortal puppets had strength in numbers, but if the group stayed clustered, they would be inviting disaster. The only solution was to go on the offensive, maneuvering and striking while maintaining their distance, using their individual skills to cover each other and find an opening to break the stalemate. Though they didn't know exactly what controlled these puppets, their years of cultivation experience told them one thing: puppets were mere tools without consciousness. Chapter 1395. Crisis Escalates, Two Fronts of Danger Part 2. Chapter 1395. Crisis Escalates, Two Fronts of Danger Part 2. Something must be controlling the whole situation. Boom, boom, boom. However, just as Jiang Chengxuan and his companions engaged, the pseudo-earth immortal puppets gave them no time to search for clues or explore further. As soon as they charged into the enemy ranks, Jiang Chengxuan and the others were immediately surrounded by waves of pseudo-earth immortal puppets, who unleashed their primordial energy, attacking from all directions. Seeing this, Jiang Chengxuan wielded his Tai Chu water-fire sword, which transformed into a 100-mile-long river of energy, forming a circular barrier around him. In an instant, continuous explosions echoed from the edges of the energy circle, distorting the surrounding void and whipping up a storm of immortal energy. Numerous pseudo-earth immortal puppets launched their attacks against the river of energy, causing devastating shockwaves and detonations. Yet this did little to halt the onslaught of the pseudo-earth immortal puppets. Even as their first wave of attacks was obstructed, a second group had already begun to condense their immortal energy, relentlessly pressing their assault on Jiang Chengxuan. In the blink of an eye, they tore through the chaotic currents of energy, unleashing a barrage of divine powers directly at Jiang Chengxuan. Divine weapons and celestial treasures, each radiating unparalleled power, filled the sky in front of Hima-Euros, swords, spears, axes, halberds, bows, and crossbows. Every puppet continued to wield the celestial treasures they had used in life, unleashing Earth immortal-level power to encircle Jiang Chengxuan completely. Faced with this relentless assault, Jiang Chengxuan reacted swiftly. Just as the puppets broke through the Tai Chu water-fire river, his mastery of space erupted. He transformed into a silver streak of lightning, leaving behind countless afterimages. Boom! In the next moment, the heavy attacks collided with nothing but those afterimages, clashing with one another, swallowing each other, and releasing terrifying residual energy. Water and fire in balance. Strike! Amidst the chaos, Jiang Chengxuan's eyes narrowed as he seized the opportunity to shift from defense to offense. Moving deftly through the battlefield, he evaded the volatile shockwaves. Within seconds, his Tai Chu water-fire sword gathered celestial energy, and he drove it straight toward the nearest pseudo-earth immortal puppet. The timing of his strike was impeccable, catching the puppet at the precise moment when its power had just been expended, and before it could muster a new attack. The other puppets had also just launched their attacks, and were unable to close the encirclement in time. In a flash, the Tai Chu water-fire sword gleamed like a ray of divine light, piercing through space and reaching the target in an instant. Swish! The Tai Chu water-fire sword, a celestial artifact born of heaven and earth, was a rare earth immortal treasure, its power unrivaled. Even a normal earth immortal cultivator would struggle to withstand its might. At best, they would be severely wounded. Jiang Chengxuan's strike sliced through the puppet's form like a hot knife through butter. The puppet's body, which had been reinforced by the sinew-like branches of the treacherous tree, granting it immunity to normal attacks, was no match for the sword. With a deep, chilling slice, the tree's branches disintegrated into ash. Euros! The puppet let out a guttural roar as the sword pierced through its body. But before it could react further, the Tai Chu water-fire sword's power erupted from within, tearing the puppet apart in mere moments, leaving it riddled with holes before it collapsed, dead on the spot. However, Jiang Chengxuan showed no signs of joy. His expression remained calm and resolute. These pseudo-earth immortal puppets felt no fear, no matter how swiftly or decisively he struck. The moment one of them fell, the rest simply turned and resumed their relentless attacks on him. They were mere puppets, devoid of consciousness. No matter what thunderous power Jiang Chengshuan unleashed, he could not intimidate them. The only solution was to cut them all down, one by one. But with 99 pseudo-earth immortal puppets covering the skies, such a feat seemed endless. While Jiang Chengshuan and his allies were caught in this deadly predicament, far from the treacherous tree, a sudden change unfolded on the battlefield where Shen Ruyan and the other immortals were fighting. Previously, through their united effort and Shen Ruyan's overwhelming power, the 100 celestial beings had gained the upper hand, forcing the disaster wraiths and calamity energy into retreat. On the battlefield, Shen Ruyan stood tall with 2 thunder gods flanking her. Her form shimmered with the radiance of primal light, her body charged with life and death energies. Every movement she made was powerful and unrestrained, wielding terrifying thunder laws. In her hands, the 5 thunder celestial sword was like an impassable barrier. No evil creature could step past this thundering line. Any that dared enter were met with her furious attacks and swiftly obliterated. Among all the celestial paths, none was more adept at countering evil entities than the path of thunder. Though these disaster wraiths were born of primordial forces, the primal divine thunder and celestial tribulation thunder that Shen Ruyan commanded were supreme, dealing devastating blows to the wraiths. Driving a storm of thunder, Shen Ruyan moved through the shattered and chaotic battlefield like a dragon, even lending support to the other forces' cultivators. For a moment, the sky was ruled by her lightning, as countless dark figures were obliterated by its force. However, just as victory seemed within reach, a sudden and violent change occurred. Out of nowhere, a dense fog of black mist surged into the battlefield, pouring from the void like a tidal wave. These dark clouds, so thick they threatened to crush the heavens, smothered the once dominant thunder force and began to slowly erode and devour it. Simultaneously, streaks of pitch-black calamity energy fell from the skies like rain, descending from the void in a chaotic storm. The dark energy surged into the heart of the battlefield, colliding with the remnants of chaos and quickly gathering at its center. Rara Euros. The sight sent a chill through the hearts of the surviving celestial beings. What followed was even more alarming. Euros. The disaster wraiths acted with unprecedented coordination. Whoa Euros. Massive waves of dark calamity energy flooded the battlefield. But instead of immediately attacking the celestial beings, the energy formed a whirlwind, twisting and entwining into a massive storm. In a flash of lightning and fire, towering figures emerged from the dark storm, their presence casting a shadow over the battlefield. The sheer size and power of these beings sent shockwaves through the area, forcing even the most powerful of the Celestials to step back. Even Shen Ruyan, feeling the intensity of the looming threat, retreated with her 2 thunder gods, transforming into a flash of lightning to regroup with the scattered Celestials of the loose Cultivator Alliance. As she stood there, stunned, colossal wraiths emerged from the swirling black mist. If Jiang Chengshuan had been present, he would have recognized them instantly. Euros. These were the same enormous disaster wraiths sent to stop them when they ventured into the treacherous tree's depths. These wraiths were at the peak of the true immortal realm. Though they had failed to halt Jiang Chengshuan and his group here on this battlefield, these wraiths were as formidable as titans. Despite the 100 celestial beings present, only a handful, including Shen Ruyan, had reached the pinnacle of the true immortal realm. And now, more than 10 of these colossal wraiths stood before Thema Euros, twice the number of true immortal experts on the field. Many of the gathered immortals gasped in shock. Had this occurred at the start of the battle, they might not have been so fearful. But now, after countless clashes and the loss of many comrades, their strength was waning. Many had fallen, and those who remained were exhausted. Faced with these full-strength wraiths, how could they possibly stand their ground? Roar! Roar! Yet the wraiths showed no concern for the state of their opponents. With earth-shattering roars, the battlefield was once again drenched in disaster energy. In the depths of the encroaching darkness, more than a dozen disaster wraiths attacked simultaneously. Their massive bodies reached across hundreds of miles, bearing down on the celestial beings like mountains. In an instant, endless red lightning cracked across the sky, disaster storms raged, and the very fabric of space began to warp. The power of countless laws was devoured by the disaster wraiths. Chapter 1396, The Dire Battlefield on the Brink of Collapse, Part 1. Chapter 1396, The Dire Battlefield on the Brink of Collapse, Part 1. The terrifying strength of the colossal calamity wraiths descended upon the battlefield with overwhelming force. Even the initial wave of their suppression caused every immortal present to feel a chill run down their spines. They hurriedly mustered their immortal powers to dodge, knowing that to confront them head-on would be foolhardy. Among them, only the cultivators at or above the true immortal realm, such as Xianxia, dared to face this suppression directly. These experts swiftly unleashed their divine powers in an effort to maintain order on the battlefield. Radiant and majestic forces erupted from their hands, transforming into vast rivers of energy, like the first rays of dawn piercing the darkness, surging to meet the impending threat. At the forefront, Xianxia had already pushed her Lei Gong token to its utmost limits. The artifact crackled with the essence of hundreds of thunder techniques, all converging into a mysterious and overpowering force, amplifying her Tai Chu divine thunder, making it even more radiant and ferocious. The Lei Gong token was a uniquely mystical artifact. Though its power alone was not exceptional, it could absorb any encountered thunder law and transform it into supreme thunder power, enhancing any thunder techniques used in conjunction with it. This particular Lei Gong token had absorbed countless thunder laws within the Tai Chu world, making it an extraordinarily rare and potent treasure. Meanwhile, other true immortals from the West Continent were also making their most powerful moves. They included figures from elite factions such as the Loose Cultivator Alliance and the Sky Dragon Trading Company, as well as from mid-level factions that had allied themselves with the greater forces. The leaders of these mid-level factions, though stuck at the threshold of Earth immortal status for millennia, were nonetheless highly skilled at the true immortal level and were formidable combatants in their own right. In the Loose Cultivator Alliance, only a select few sects had the honor of aligning with them, and these were the ones who had demonstrated unique secret arts and talents. Now, in this dire situation, they remained calm and coordinated, providing support to Xianxia as they launched their own attacks on the colossal calamity wraiths. Streams of immortal energy and powerful manifestations of laws filled the skies, forming an intricate web of divine light. Against the all-encompassing darkness of the calamity energy, they managed to hold their ground, albeit with difficulty. Boom! 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 In the blink of an eye, the void was rocked by a deafening cacophony. The clash between these two opposing forces felt like two worlds colliding, unleashing waves of destructive intent. One world was dark, boundless, and all-consuming, while the other gleamed with 9 colors, endlessly radiant and resplendent. Both forces Euros, capable of destroying heaven and earth Euros, were locked in a relentless struggle, continuously grinding and devouring each other. The space for thousands of miles around was twisted beyond recognition, rippling with violent waves of spatial distortions. The impact was so great that the weaker immortals found themselves thrown off balance, barely able to control their movements as they were hurled through the chaotic void. Even far in the distance, the members of the Loose Cultivator Alliance could sense the terrifying scale of the ongoing battle. Hissa Euros. How did it get so much worse? What's happening on the battlefield? Could something have gone wrong? Heavenly immortals, please protect us. The disciples and elders, anxiously watching from afar, gasped in horror, their faces pale. Their hearts pounded with fear, and they could only pray for their comrades' safety, as the clash of powers signaled the battlefield becoming even more perilous. At the same time, it wasn't just the Loose Cultivator Alliance holding its breath. Across the entire West Continent, every cultivator who had heard about the battle was watching with bated breath. News of Jiang Chengxuan leading the alliances to attack the Calamity Tree had spread quickly, and while it filled the West Continent's cultivators with excitement and hope, it also left them tense with concern. They knew this battle would determine the fate of their entire land. If victorious, the West Continent could find new life, emerging from the shadow of the calamity. If they lost, the entire continent would fall. At that point, there would be no hope of survival for anyone, not even for the elite factions. The collapse of the West Continent's entire system would leave every sect scrambling to save themselves, unable to protect anyone else. Please return victorious. Our fates rest in your hands. Throughout the West Continent, countless cultivators, worn down by the calamity's ravages, prayed in unison. For the first time, the entire continent was truly united in spirit. But while this collective hope was heartening, it did little to affect the perilous situation unfolding on the battlefield. After weathering the initial assault from the colossal wraiths, Shenruyan and the other immortals struggled to hold their lines. Yet the ferocious wraiths unleashed one devastating wave of calamity energy after another, forcing the 100 immortal coalition into a desperate retreat. Mid the violent storm of calamity energy, countless monstrous faces snarled and howled across the battlefield. Even Shenruyan found herself locked in a grueling struggle, relying on her control over the Tai Chu winds and lightning to maneuver and bide her time, searching for an opening. But the casualties began to mount quickly. Immortal after immortal fell, their bodies exploding into clouds of blood under the brutal suppression of the wraiths. The sight of their comrades being slaughtered caused a wave of fear and outrage among the remaining immortals. They had fought for so long without suffering significant losses, but the appearance of these wraiths had changed everything in an instant. Meanwhile, deep within the void surrounding the calamity tree, Jiang Chengxuan and his 3 companions were also trapped in an increasingly dangerous quagmire, their situation growing more dire by the second. Though Jiang Chengxuan had fought valiantly, growing more ferocious with each strike of his Tai Chu water-fire sword, cutting down one Su-worth immortal puppet after another, the sheer number of puppets a Euros, and their surprising resiliency a Euros, made the fight an endless struggle. Chapter 1397, Dire Battlefield on the Verge of Collapse Part 2. Chapter 1397, Dire Battlefield on the Verge of Collapse Part 2. Despite this, Jiang Chengxuan still felt immense pressure. After slaying the first Su-worth immortal puppet, Jiang Chengxuan realized something unusual. The puppets were far more bizarre than he had initially thought. The strange veins formed by the calamity tree, branches running through their bodies, made them incredibly difficult to kill. Unless he pierced their hearts or severed their heads, any other damage they sustained was not fatal. For instance, many of the puppets near Jiang Chengxuan who attacked ferociously had already sprouted new branches from within their wounds, covering their bodies. These calamity tree branches emerged from the very wounds Jiang Chengxuan had inflicted, quickly healing them and making the puppets as deadly as before. This strange regeneration ability caught Jiang Chengxuan off guard, making the fight much more grueling than expected. However, utilizing his mastery of spatial techniques and reincarnation powers, he managed to escape their encirclement and break out from the side. Wu Euros. With a heavy sigh, Jiang Chengxuan's eyes grew serious as he finally had a moment to check on the status of Chuan Han Immortal, Aisha Aumlaut trademark Aumlaut 00, Fu Guang Immortal, Cicidilla Aring Aumlaut trademark Aumlaut 00, and Qing Yun Immortal, Acute Aumlaut 0 ring degree Shi Euros. Unsurprisingly, Chuan Han Immortal, Fu Guang Immortal, and Qing Yun Immortal were all locked in fierce, life-threatening combat, constantly at risk. Each of them was surrounded by a dozen or more Su-worth immortal puppets, who attacked in perfect synchronization. Even as Earth immortal experts, they couldn't withstand the onslaught head-on and had no choice but to evade and defend. Moreover, many of the puppets surrounding them had sprouted the same calamity tree branches, using them to recover from injuries. This eerie regenerative power left Chuan Han immortal and the others deeply frustrated. Watch out! Suddenly, Jiang Chengxuan's figure shot forward once more, transforming into a streak of immortal light as he summoned his Tai Chu water-fire sword, charging directly into the midst of the Su-worth immortal puppets. In a flash, he struck out with a sword that was as elusive as a hornless deer, stabbing with pinpoint accuracy into the heart of a nearby puppet. Boom! The overwhelming power of the Tai Chu water-fire force exploded, instantly obliterating the calamity tree branches inside the puppet. As the branches were reduced to ashes, Jiang Chengxuan seized the moment, killing another puppet in the blink of an eye. Thank you, Taoist Jiang. Qing Yun Immortal, who had just been saved, was visibly startled and thanked him with lingering fear. The puppet Jiang Chengxuan had just slain had been hiding in a blind spot in his senses, ready to launch a fatal sneak attack from behind. Had Jiang Chengxuan not intervened at that crucial moment, Qing Yun Immortal would have been overwhelmed by the remaining puppets, putting his life in serious danger. Jiang Chengxuan simply nodded, offering no further comment. There was no time for pleasantry as euros. The puppets Jiang Chengxuan had evaded were already converging on him again, dark shadows forming like a storm as they pursued, giving him no time to rest. With no room for conversation, waves of attacks crashed down once more, forcing Jiang Chengxuan to brace himself with his blessed land as he charged heavenward into another round of bloody combat. The resilience and ferocity of these puppets far exceeded their expectations. Despite the prolonged battle, they had yet to find an opening to break through. On the contrary, their situation was growing more desperate by the moment. Blessed light illuminate the world. Fortune spirits heed my command. In Fu Guang Immortal's sector of the battlefield, he too was forced to unleash his trump card. With a shout and a series of complex seals, he summoned a powerful treasury of euros, a shining seal that radiated the light of fortune. From the seal, countless apparitions of mythical beasts emerged, all glowing with the blessing of fortune. These celestial beasts, full of divine might, charged fearlessly into the fray, pushing back the attacking puppets. Meanwhile, Xuanhan Immortal's cold gaze was fixed on the battlefield. Surrounded by puppets wielding a variety of divine powers, he harnessed the power of extreme light, darting left and right to evade and counterattack. Despite being second only to Jiang Chengxuan in strength, he was still struggling to handle the relentless barrage. Though he managed to slay one pseudo-earth immortal puppet, it made little difference to euros. The remaining number of puppets still hovered above 70, and their relentless assault pushed Xuanhan Immortal to the limits of his abilities. The entire battlefield was filled with shockwaves from the clash of Earth immortal-level powers. Each thunderous explosion marked the collision of dozens of powerful forces, shaking the heavens and sending chaotic energy spiraling through the sky. Had any true immortal entered this battlefield, they would have been obliterated instantly by the residual forces. This conflict had escalated into one of the most intense and cataclysmic battles the immortal realm had ever witnessed, rivaling anything seen in the past million years. Every individual in this fight, even the puppets, could dominate entire regions of the immortal realm. If these 81 puppets were unleashed on the western continent, they would sweep through unchecked unless other Earth immortals intervened. In fact, the battle was affecting even distant areas, like the Calamity Energy Wall, a ring SHKE degrees, eacutering senstrade. Although Jiang Chengxuan and the others were unaware, the mist surrounding the black wall had begun to thin and ripple, as if something within was about to separate or change. This phenomenon did not escape the notice of Earth immortals in other regions. They could sense an unusual shift, filling them with unease, but they had no idea what was about to happen. Time passed in a haze of bloodshed and destruction. No one knew how long the battle had raged, but every moment was spent at the brink of death. Every ounce of immortal energy and willpower was being wrung from their bodies as they fought on. Countless immortals had already perished, but no one had the luxury to mourn. Pills were consumed in bulk, and immortal treasures were pushed to their limits, breaking apart in battle as they were used to their fullest extent. In the chaos, strange phenomena rose and fell, the power of the Tao flickering like the light of a dying star. The battlefield had devolved into a formless void, where even senses were restricted. Flashes of lightning and bursts of immortal light illuminated the darkness, with shadows of euros, some enemies, some allies of euros dashing past at close range. Within the loose cultivator alliance's ranks, Shen Ruyan AE2 letter 2C6 A ring Cisadilla letter 192 Y umlaut led the immortals, using their combined divine powers to hold their formation. Her Tai Chu divine thunder had held back countless waves of attacks, keeping their group intact. However, everyone within the formation was battered and exhausted, their immortal auras dimming. Injuries from calamity energy marred their bodies, and their expressions were grim. But the most terrifying signs came from beyond the loose cultivator alliance's sector of the battlefield. Through the chaos, they could sense that more and more immortals were perishing. In fact, an estimated 30% of the immortals in the other factions had already fallen. And yet, only 2 of the colossal calamity spirits had been defeated. One of those had been slain by Shen Ruyan herself, at the cost of much of her own energy. The tide of battle was rapidly turning against them. More and more immortals were dying, and even Shen Ruyan, despite her formidable powers, was beginning to feel overwhelmed. Damn it! If this keeps up, the battle will collapse. The blood-soaked Crimson Slash Immortal said in a grim tone. Shenruyan's eyes turned icy as her brows furrowed tightly. This battlefield might not be the key to the entire war, but if they were to fall here, the consequences would be dire. Yang Chengshuan and his group could be fighting for years. Earth immortals could draw endless power from their blessed lands, fighting indefinitely as long as they survived. But in the meantime, if this battlefield were to fall and the calamity spirits wiped out all 100 immortals, they would march into the western continent as if it were an unguarded land. Looks like I'll have to use the trump card my husband gave me. Shenruyan muttered under her breath, her expression filled with resolve. She knew that now was the time to reveal her final weapon. There was no room left to hold back. Chapter 1398, The Tide of Counterattack, The Collapse of Blessed Lands, Part 1. Chapter 1398, The Tide of Counterattack, The Collapse of Blessed Lands, Part 1. The chilling roar of violent winds howled from all directions, surging through the chaotic mist that reached up to the heavens. The massive figures of the calamity spirits shook the skies with thunderous sounds, their gigantic hands descending from the sky to crush all in their path. Within the chaos, countless immortals of the western continent were forced to retreat under this relentless assault. Some fell on the spot, their lives snuffed out like candles in a storm. Yet there were those who, in the face of death, fearlessly charged toward the calamity spirits, determined to exchange their lives for one last blow. Even if they were to perish, they would bring down at least one enemy with them. High in the sky, the sight of celestial death was staggering. Amidst the swirling black calamity energy, radiant flashes of light illuminated the grim faces of many immortals, full of sorrow and rage. The unending battle had already claimed a heavy toll. Some sects had lost their leaders, leaving only a single elder behind to continue their legacy. Yet there was no regret in their hearts of Euros, only frustration that, at the final moment, they hadn't been able to complete their mission and suppress the calamity. Is this truly the end for the western continent? Someone cried out in anguish, their body drenched in blood and their eyes bloodshot. This newly ascended true immortal had never witnessed such a brutal war before. The scene before Thema Euros, widespread devastation and the cries of despair Euros, was a bitter blow to their spirit. The 100 immortals who now fought represented the last strength of the western continent. Behind them, there was nowhere for their countless sect disciples to retreat. If they failed, the consequences would be unimaginable Euros, a future none of them were willing to accept. Alas, the heavens are blind. The suffering of all living beings, and no one comes to save us. Another immortal on the verge of death left behind these final words. With a fierce shout, their body erupted with celestial energy, burning their life force to unleash their full strength. They transformed into a multicolored flame, hurling themselves at the massive hand of the calamity spirit. A deafening explosion followed, shaking the heavens and drawing everyone's attention. The self-sacrificing immortal unleashed a terrifying burst of power, splitting open a section of the chaotic battlefield and creating a temporary island of light amidst the darkness. It was a shocking sight, both awe-inspiring and tragic. The surviving immortals were filled with respect for the fallen, but also deep sorrow. A mighty immortal, forced to self-destruct the Euros, such a fate was chilling to witness. But what truly sent ice through their veins was what appeared after the explosion. When the celestial flames faded, the enormous shadow of the calamity spirit remained. One of its arms had been consumed by the blast, reduced to nothing. Yet even such a devastating attack had failed to kill it. This reality only deepened the cold dread that gripped the battlefield. If these calamity spirits were so resilient, how could they possibly be defeated? Rara Euros. The next moment, before the immortals could mourn further, the injured calamity spirit roared in fury and lunged at the nearest group, its massive injury seemingly having no effect on its ferocity. Buzza Euros. However, just when the situation seemed most dire, an extraordinary ripple spread through the air, breaking the stalemate at the last possible moment. Out of nowhere, a brilliant black light streaked across the battlefield like a flash of lightning. Its speed surpassed even the fastest of bolts, too quick for the naked eye to follow. By the time the immortals realized what had happened, the black light had already carved a deep chasm through the body of the calamity spirit, slicing it in half. Boom! A moment later, an ancient and overwhelming aura spread across the battlefield, blanketing everything in its path. This power carried an essence of destruction far purer than even the calamity energy itself. Gaspa Euros. What is that? The sudden turn of events left all the immortals in stunned silence. Shock after shock had hit them, each more unbelievable than the last. And now, to their astonishment, the seemingly invincible calamity spirit had been felled by a single strike from this mysterious black light. The massive creature began to contort and twist, its body triggering a cataclysmic storm as all its calamity energy collapsed inward, drawn into the abyss that the black light had created. In an instant, this once terrifying calamity spirit was annihilated. The display of power left the immortals speechless. Even the other calamity spirits, which had seemed unstoppable until now, appeared shaken by the sudden display of strength. They roared uneasily, their instincts telling them to fear this new force. Merely a pawn of the great calamity. How dare you act so arrogantly? A cold voice rang out, and soon after, a figure clad in lightning and radiating an immense and mysterious power stepped forward from where the black light had originated. All eyes turned toward the figure, and to their astonishment, they recognized Shen Ruyan. Buzza Euros. The fabric of space rippled as Shen Ruyan stood in the void, her delicate hands gracefully waving in the air. With a single motion, the entire world seemed to tremble in response. The black light, still consuming the calamity spirit's energy, coalesced into a massive barrier of darkness that quickly returned to her side. As the chaos briefly settled, the immortals finally saw clearly what the black light was: Euros, a glass-like black sword, faintly ethereal, about the length of an arm. It radiated a terrifying aura of pure destruction, so intense that even the calamity energy dared not approach it, as though it had encountered a natural predator. Among the immortals from the loose cultivator alliance, some faintly recognized this treasure. It bore a striking resemblance to a divine weapon that Jiang Chengxuan had once wielded. In truth, this was indeed the product of Jiang Chengxuan's efforts, crafted from the core of a calamity weapon combined with the essence of calamity energy itself. Chapter 1399, The Tide of Counterattack, The Collapse of Blessed Lands, Part 2. Chapter 1399, The Tide of Counterattack, The Collapse of Blessed Lands, Part 2. The mystical treasure Shen Ruyan had summoned was like a divine talisman, containing a portion of the calamity weapon's power, which could be wielded through specific means. That's why it was so devastating against the calamity spirits. After all, the calamity weapon itself was the natural nemesis of calamity energy. Even the fearsome tree of calamity had once been forced to retreat in the face of Jiang Chengxuan's calamity weapon. With a calm expression, Shen Ruyan softly spoke as her red lips moved. She flicked her slender finger, and the technique she had summoned was unleashed again. Its power and speed far surpassed that of any ordinary true immortal, especially when bolstered by the unparalleled aura of the calamity weapon. In the blink of an eye, it had pierced through countless layers of void and calamity barriers, striking another calamity spirit. This spirit didn't even have time to react before it saw its own body sliced open with a massive, nearly severing gash. Moreover, a strange and terrifying energy began devouring the calamity energy within the wound, and there was no way to stop it. This single strike shattered the morale of the remaining calamity spirits. Their immense forms trembled, retreating in fear of being caught in the deadly range of Shen Ruyan's technique. In the next moment, her eyes gleamed coldly. She waved her hand once more, sending out a dazzling black light. In an instant, another calamity spirit fell, its colossal body collapsing into particles of light, which were then absorbed by the growing power of her technique. Hissa Euros. The immortals around her gasped in astonishment. In just 2 strikes, she had slain 2 calamity spirits. Even Earth immortals would struggle to display such power. Shen Ruyan's skill shocked everyone, and she single-handedly turned the tide of the battle, saving the Western continent. Immortals of the Western continent, hear my command. Follow me and slay the calamity spirits. At Shen Ruyan's command, the immortals, rejuvenated with new hope and confidence, surged forward without hesitation. They had been given a glimpse of victory, and their hearts were filled with a burning desire for revenge. With Shen Ruyan leading the charge, cutting through the calamity spirits with every strike, the immortals pressed forward, pushing back the calamity spirits in an overwhelming wave of celestial light. However, only Shen Ruyan knew the truth. The power of this divine technique wouldn't last much longer. After all, it was beyond the reach of any ordinary true immortal, and even most Earth immortals would have trouble controlling it. Jiang Chengshuan had warned her repeatedly. Unless her life was truly at risk, she was not to use this technique. That was why Shen Ruyan had refrained from using it until this critical moment. After just a few strikes, in a place hidden from view, her arm was already darkening from the corruption of the calamity energy. Yet her face remained calm as she suppressed the pain, making sure no one noticed. "Husband, I won't let this battlefield fall." This was the single thought that kept Shen Ruyan going, her unwavering belief fueling her every action. At the same time, while Shen Ruyan led a counterattack with forbidden power, Jiang Chengshuan and his allies were engaged in an equally brutal battle elsewhere. The relentless clashes had forced even Jiang Chengshuan to focus solely on his immediate surroundings. Surrounded by Sudworth immortal puppets, he had managed to kill more than 10 of them using the power of the primordial water and fire sword. However, he too had sustained several injuries, and the glow of his blessed land was dimming. If even Jiang Chengshuan, the strongest among them, was struggling, the situation of the other three was even more dire. Xuanhen Immortal, who had not been pushed to such limits since the great battle 10,000 years ago, found himself besieged by the Sudworth immortal puppets. The polar light essence within his blessed land was fading, and his long sword was now dull from constant use. The celestial treasures surrounding him were all damaged, and only a few remained intact. His only solace was the few puppets he had managed to destroy. Though still young and filled with vigor, Xuanhen Immortal could barely hold his ground. But the situation for Fuguang Immortal and Qingyun Venerable was even more dire. The continuous assault of the Sudworth Immortal puppets had pushed Fuguang Immortal and Qingyun Venerable to the brink of collapse. Their blessed land energy, though originally boundless, had been severely depleted. Meanwhile, the puppets, sustained by the peculiar nature of the world they were in, seemed tireless. Their attacks came in waves, leaving Fuguang Immortal and Qingyun Venerable struggling just to stay alive. Fuguang Immortal had already burned through countless celestial treasure in his desperate defense. Centuries of accumulated wealth had been spent, leaving him barely able to keep the battle going and slay a few more puppets. As for Qingyun Venerable, lacking such resources, he had fought with sheer courage, killing several enemies. But he too was gravely wounded. The azure cloud within his blessed land had faded, and the once majestic scenes of mountains and rivers were now shattered and broken. Blood filled Qingyun Venerable's eyes as he saw the Sudworth immortal puppets sensing his weakened state. More of them gathered around, their attacks becoming more ferocious. Jiang Chengshuan and the others tried to come to his aid, but a barrier of pure primordial energy appeared between them, preventing their approach. The situation deteriorated rapidly. Qingyun Venerable, disoriented and weakened, was struck by several puppet attacks. The Earth Immortal level force shook his blessed land, sending violent shockwaves through him, causing him to stagger back, bloodied and exhausted. "Damn this calamity. Even if I die today, I won't let you have the last laugh." At the brink of death, Qingyun Venerable roared in fury, his voice echoing through the battlefield. He knew this might be his final stand. If he didn't act, he would die with regrets, leaving his fate in the hands of these abominations. Staring at the terrifying Sudworth immortal puppets closing in on him, Qingyun Venerable thought of his homeland, Azure Province, and how the essence of these puppets had been drawn from it. Determined to change the tide of battle, he finally made a desperate decision. Blessed land returned to the source. With a thunderous shout, an overwhelming, ancient power burst forth from Qingyun Venerable, breaking through all restraints and sweeping across the battlefield. The terrifying energy surged from his body and his blessed land, flooding the space around him with incredible force. For a moment, the world seemed to fall silent, and even Jiang Chengshuan felt his heart tremble. Qingyun Venerable, Xuanhen Immortal and Fuguang Immortal were equally stunned, their faces filled with shock and disbelief. A deep, tragic sense of reverence welled up within them as they realized what was happening. Boom, boom, boom. Wave after wave of immense power rippled through the void, growing stronger with each pulse. Brilliant azure light spread outward, creating rings of starlight. Even the remaining Sudworth immortal puppets were thrown back, while those closest to the center were obliterated. The heavens twisted, and the world began to collapse. At the center of the chaos, Qingyun Venerable's body cracked, fissures spreading across his form. Behind him, his blessed land erupted in world-ending lightning, beginning to fracture and break apart. In that moment, it became clear that King Yun Venerable had chosen to shatter his own blessed land to Euros, the ultimate and most desperate move of an Earth immortal. The decisive and selfless resolve with which he made this choice filled everyone with respect and awe. Even Jiang Chengxuan couldn't help but be moved by the tragic grandeur of the scene. To shatter one's own blessed land was the final and most powerful move available to an Earth immortal. A blessed land was a world unto itself, containing the essence of an Earth immortal's path. To destroy it could mean a loss of several realms of cultivation, leaving the immortal permanently weakened, or, in the worst case, immediate death and the complete annihilation of their soul. Chapter 1400, The Power of the Collapse Nearing the Endgame Part 1. Chapter 1400, The Power of the Collapse Nearing the Endgame Part 1. Boom, boom, boom. The power unleashed by the disintegration of King Yun Venerable's blessed land erupted wave after wave, shaking the heavens and earth. The devastating force radiated outward, consuming King Yun Venerable's position in a blinding, fiery glow, as if a sun had descended upon the battlefield. Even Jiang Chengxuan and the others could no longer see clearly through the overwhelming light. For a moment, all the pseudo-earth immortal puppets let out furious roars and howls, forcibly driven back from the overwhelming power. Though the disintegration of a blessed land unleashed indiscriminate devastation on everything within its range, Jiang Chengxuan and the other Earth Immortals had far superior defenses compared to the pseudo-Earth Immortal puppets. As the disintegration continued, the puppets were battered and wounded, their numbers proving to be more of a hindrance than an advantage in such a scenario. The puppets, not truly independent beings, were interconnected through the Tree of Calamity. This connection made them more vulnerable to the effects of King Yun Venerable's blessed land collapse than Jiang Chengxuan and his companions. Even the world itself, linked to the Tree of Calamity and the puppets, trembled and fractured under the immense power. The resulting backlash spread to the puppets, worsening their situation. Roar! In desperation, the pseudo-Earth immortal puppets didn't stand idle. Under the control of the Calamity's will, they formed a battle formation, resisting the power of the disintegration. Their combined Earth immortal level energy linked together, creating a barrier that shone like a constellation, trying to withstand the onslaught. However, under the brilliance of King Yun Venerable's collapsing blessed land, their efforts were futile. The outline of his blessed land continued to fracture, breaking apart, releasing endless primordial energy. The overwhelming aura of destruction and an eerie, corrosive force flowed through, erasing everything in its path. At the forefront of the puppet formation, the bodies of the pseudo-Earth immortal puppets began to break apart, their flesh splitting open, revealing the branches of the Tree of Calamity inside them. But even the tree branches ignited in the ensuing chaos, turning to ash. Not even the divine laws of the Calamity could withstand the power of the disintegration, showcasing its terrifying might. Those witnessing the scene from within the protection of their own blessed lands were filled with complex emotions. Though a solution to break the stalemate had been found, it came at the cost of King Yun Venerable's life, a sacrifice no one could celebrate. As puppet after puppet was annihilated, they could only sigh in sorrow. Boom! Boom! The terrifying power continued to unfold without end, reaching its peak. At that moment, the hidden world deep within the Tree of Calamity began to change. Under the watchful eyes of Jiang Chengxuan and the others, the surrounding space started to contract from its edges, revealing faint outlines. Strange, fiery lights began to flicker, drawing the world inward. The entire dimension was like a sheet of paper catching fire at the edges, slowly burning inward. Chaotic energy was purified by the shockwaves, transforming into an indescribable power that merged with the primordial energy, twisting the laws of reality itself. The heavens and earth warped, and ancient, majestic visions began to appear. Jiang Chengxuan and his allies stood in solemn silence, knowing the true opportunity to turn the tide of battle might soon arrive. Meanwhile, outside on the battlefield, the immortals of the Western continent had successfully turned the tide, having wiped out most of the giant calamity spirits. The once raging calamity energy in the sky had been absorbed, leaving the battlefield desolate and scarred. Led by Shen Ruyan, the remaining dozens of immortals took their positions, activating their celestial treasures as they launched a final assault on the last few remaining calamity spirits. In an instant, immense celestial energy surged, illuminating the heavens. The calamity spirits, cornered and desperate, unleashed one final tempest of calamity energy, sweeping across the battlefield. Boom, boom, boom. Waves of energy clashed like celestial rivers colliding, each impact reverberating with earth-shattering explosions. The entire world trembled under the pressure, and the chaotic energy that had filled the skies roared in one last frenzy. Even so, eliminating the last few calamity spirits wasn't an easy task. As the storm raged, waves of power devoured each other, and the combined attacks of the immortals were swiftly neutralized by the spirits. HMPH. Cornered beasts. Slay them. At that moment, a cold and serene voice echoed through the battlefield. Shenruyan emerged, making her move. Behind her ethereal figure, a long blade shimmered with black light, both real and illusory, radiating an aura of pure destruction. With a graceful sweep of her snowy white hand, the blade slashed forward, its terrifying energy slicing through the void like a black river cutting through the heavens. The attack instantly tore through layers of space, striking the calamity spirits with devastating force. Chapter 1401, The Power of the Collapse Nearing the Endgame Part 2. Chapter 1401, The Power of the Collapse Nearing the Endgame Part 2. The speed of Shenruyan's blade had increased even further, far surpassing its previous pace, leaving the remaining calamity spirits with no room to escape Euros. They could only face the attack head-on. Buzz Euros. Under the excited gazes of the immortals, this slash remained as invincible as ever. The blade light fell, and the massive body of the calamity spirit was severed in half with a single strike, collapsing like a mountain. Well, Elder Shen is invincible. What power? With the celestial maiden here, Western continent is saved. Slaughter these calamity spirits and avenge our fallen comrades. The remaining immortals erupted in cheers, their voices filled with admiration and excitement, unable to hide their relief and joy. For the first time, after surviving so many life-and-death battles and witnessing the deaths of their companions, they finally glimpsed the dawn of victory. That glimmer of hope came from Shenruyan and the power of her long blade. Buzz Euros. Buzz Euros. Without showing any emotion, Shenruyan wielded her blade with precision, unleashing wave after wave of brilliant strikes. Each cut illuminated the entire battlefield, splitting the calamity spirits into pieces, their bodies dissolving into the atmosphere. As the calamity energy dissipated, the once oppressive aura began to fade. Moments later, the battle finally reached its conclusion. Under Shenruyan's command, the terrifying power of the tribulation weapon obliterated all remaining calamities, spirits, and calamity energy. The ruined world began to clear, and as the black clouds dispersed from the sky, sunlight pierced through the heavens, leaving the survivors momentarily dazed. For a time, everyone stood still, silent and overwhelmed, as if waking from a dream. It wasn't until after a long pause that the immortals, looking around at the devastated battlefield, began to accept that it was truly over. We won. It's over, it's finally over. We did it. Do you see this? Jubilant and emotional cries broke the silence, echoing across the battlefield. The surviving immortals, drenched in blood and covered in wounds, were filled with both relief and grief, their hearts a whirlwind of complex emotions. Even the members of the Rogue Alliance and Shenruyan herself exchanged exhausted glances, finally allowing themselves to breathe a sigh of relief. Boom! Boom! However, their celebrations were short-lived. From the distant reaches of the sky came a sudden and terrifying pulse of energy, spreading across the western continent with a force that shook the very land beneath them. The ancient, cataclysmic aura it carried felt like the harbinger of doom itself, casting a chilling shadow over the previously jubilant crowd. In an instant, all eyes turned toward the source of the disturbance, but they could only make out a strange, hazy glow on the horizon, unable to see beyond the mist. Yet the growing intensity of the aura left no doubt in their minds. Euros. It was real, and it was powerful. Under the weight of this overwhelming energy, the immortals felt like mere ants. There was no question that this was the work of the Earth Immortals. Clearly, the battle deep within the Tree of Calamity had reached its most critical point. Concern filled the eyes of the immortals, and many instinctively turned their gazes toward Shenruyan. As the de facto leader of the group, she was the one they looked to for reassurance. Yet despite their reliance on her, Shenruyan's face remained emotionless. By this point, Her body was suffering severe backlash from wielding the tribulation weapon. Tribulation energy now coursed through her meridians, making her feel as though her internal systems were being corroded. If not for the special elixirs Jiang Chengxuan had given her, she wouldn't have lasted until the end of the battle. She would have succumbed to the backlash long ago. Though the tribulation weapon was immensely effective against the calamity spirits, absorbing their energy to strengthen itself, this very process caused the backlash against Shen Ruyan to grow ever stronger, making the weapon a double-edged sword. Wu Euros. Exhaling slowly, Shen Ruyan's expression hardened as she forcibly suppressed the tribulation energy wreaking havoc inside her. She reined in the tribulation weapon's power and glanced toward the distant haze, feeling both relief and anxiety. "Husband, I have held this battlefield, now it's all up to you," she muttered softly to herself, a weight of responsibility and hope in her heart. Meanwhile, deep within the Tree of Calamity, the terrifying power of the collapsing blessed land had finally reached its conclusion. Under its immense force, the entire world created by the Tree of Calamity had been utterly destroyed. In its place, a new realm had formed, one teeming with primordial energy and chaotic force. This new world was a chaotic spectacle of brilliant light, with streams of energy weaving together, obscuring everything within it. Even with the keenest senses, only vague outlines could be discerned through the turbulent light. Amidst this new chaos, nearly all of the Sudworth immortal puppets had been annihilated by the power unleashed by King Yun Venerable's sacrifice. Only a handful remained, less than 10 in total. Boom! Without hesitation, Jiang Chengxuan and the others attacked the remaining puppets. Their celestial power surged, distorting the space around them as Jiang Chengxuan and Xuanhen Immortal made their moves. In mere moments, they appeared in front of the puppets, striking with their full strength. The remaining Sudworth immortal puppets, already grievously injured by the disintegration of King Yun Venerable's blessed land, were wrapped in the now fragile branches of the Tree of Calamity. With the world they once relied on destroyed, they were nothing more than helpless prey. In the blink of an eye, Jiang Chengxuan and Xuanhen Immortal unleashed their might, with Jiang's power of primordial fire and water clashing against Xuanhen's radiant light. It took only a few swift strikes to reduce the puppets to ashes, leaving them no chance to fight back. On the other side of the battlefield, however, Fuguang Immortal had turned his attention elsewhere. He manifested his own blessed land, and moved to where King Yun Venerable had last stood. Upon seeing King Yun Venerable still clinging to life, though barely conscious and gravely injured, Fuguang Immortal let out a sigh of relief and rushed over. In a strange, luminous cocoon of energy, King Yun Venerable was still breathing, though he had collapsed from exhaustion. Without wasting any time, Fuguang Immortal retrieved a life-saving celestial pill and fed it to him, channeling his own energy to help King Yun Venerable absorb the pill's power. Slowly but surely, King Yun Venerable's condition began to stabilize. Thank goodness! Fuguang Immortal breathed a sigh of relief, enveloping King Yun Venerable in his blessed land's protective energy, placing him in a secure area. This battle, he knew, had turned in their favor largely due to King Yun Venerable's self-sacrifice. Had King Yun Venerable not chosen to collapse his own blessed land, they would still be locked in combat with the Sudworth immortal puppets. Boom! 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 At that moment, Jiang Chengxuan and Xuanhen Immortal finished off the last of the puppets with decisive blows. In a flash, they hurried to Fuguang Immortal's side. "How is King Yun Venerable?" "He's still alive, right?" They both asked with concern, their expressions grave. After witnessing King Yun Venerable's sacrifice, their respect for him had grown immensely. "Yes," Fuguang Immortal responded with a complicated look. "Though his blessed land has collapsed, he's still alive, which is a blessing amidst misfortune. He's alive, and that's what matters. The entire Western continent will remember King Yun Venerable's sacrifice." With that, Jiang Chengxuan and Xuanhen Immortal both let out relieved sighs. "We can't let his sacrifice be in vain. We must win this battle. Focus." After a moment of silence, Jiang Chengxuan's eyes shone with determination as he spoke firmly. His words were met with resolute nods from Fuguang Immortal and Xuanhen Immortal. Together, they turned their gaze toward the hazy depths of the world, where the heart of the Tree of Calamity lay waiting. Chapter 1402, The Manifestation of the Tree of Calamity, The Contour of the World, Part 1. Chapter 1402, The Manifestation of the Tree of Calamity, The Contour of the World, Part 1. Under the overwhelming power of the earth immortals' disintegrated blessed land, the inner world of the Tree of Calamity was forcefully torn open, revealing an enigmatic new realm. Little did anyone know, the Tree of Calamity was never a naturally grown entity in the immortal realm. It belonged to a mysterious existence beyond the six realms. The domain deep within the tree was a point of convergence between worlds. Now, thanks to the Earth Immortal's sacrifice, Jiang Chengshuan and his companions had gained entry into this uncharted territory. This new world was eerily silent, filled with a mysterious energy that flowed through the void of Euros, not originating from any known source, nor pure chaos. Jiang Chengshuan, Xuanhen Immortal, and Fuguang Immortal remained vigilant, their expressions solemn as they prepared to unleash their full strength at any given moment. Yet despite the tension, they wasted no time. Exchanging a glance, the trio transformed into streaks of light, swiftly maneuvering through the strange forces that filled the air, making their way toward the core of the Tree of Calamity. Soon, as the radiant streams of bizarre energy surged past them, the three immortals arrived at their destination. Before them stood a faint, fragile outline of a barrier, seemingly on the verge of shattering with the slightest touch. Jiang Chengshuan furrowed his brow and extended his right hand toward the outline. As soon as his fingers made contact, faint ripples spread across the barrier, creating waves of energy, but the outline itself offered no resistance. It seems the origin energy absorbed by the Tree of Calamity has fused with the surrounding chaos, becoming part of this strange atmosphere, Jiang Chengshuan concluded after a moment of careful observation. Without hesitation, the three immortals steeled themselves and passed through the barrier, their expressions resolute. Regardless of the dangers that lay ahead, their mission remained unchanged to Euros. They had to reach the tree's core to achieve their ultimate goal. Buzz Euros. This time, there were no obstructions in the void. Jiang Chengshuan and his companions passed through the strange barrier and finally entered the heart of the Tree of Calamity. The moment they crossed the threshold, the atmosphere became overwhelmingly dense. The fusion of origin energy and chaos was so concentrated that it exerted a palpable pressure on the void itself. But the trio had anticipated this. With a wave of their hands, they each summoned their respective blessed lands, forming protective shields that deflected the pressure. The energy here was on par with origin energy, and as soon as it made contact with them, the trio felt their own power become sluggish. Still, they had no time to dwell on this discomfort. They stood at the center of the tree's core, gazing at the mysterious scene unfolding before them. The world around them shimmered with ethereal light. Faint outlines of strange entities were scattered throughout the realm, like cracks in space, intricately woven and crisscrossing the area like threads. Be careful. These things are incredibly strange. Don't get too close, Xuanhen Immortal warned, his voice laced with caution. Near him, one such outline extended downward from the heavens, winding in serpentine patterns. Even from several feet away, he could sense the terrifying sharpness emanating from it, as if it could slice through anything with ease. A shiver ran down his spine. Jiang Chengshuan's expression grew more serious as he raised the primordial water and fire sword, gripping it tightly in his hand, ready to strike at a moment's notice. Fuguang Immortal, too, lifted his precious seal, summoning auspicious manifestations that shimmered with radiant light, casting protective beams around them. Buzz a circumflex Euros. As if triggered by their actions, the space around them erupted in a dazzling display of light. One by one, beams of immortal light stretched down from the heavens, following the strange, unseen contours in the void. The light reflected off the chaotic forces in the air, transforming the world into a dreamlike scene. For a moment, Jiang Chengshuan and the others felt an overwhelming pressure, their internal energy and celestial powers trembling uncontrollably. They had to divert some of their attention just to stabilize their power, or their own energies might spiral out of control. What kind of energy could cause the power of Earth Immortals to waver? They knew that the strength of Earth Immortals, anchored in their blessed lands, was incredibly stable. Yet here, this inexplicable force was disrupting their energy flows, a phenomenon that left the three of them astounded. Buzz, buzz, buzz. Before they could contemplate further, the light intensified, and the previously invisible outlines became more defined, gradually revealing what they truly were. To their shock, Suspended high in the sky was a bizarre humanoid figure, composed entirely of countless intertwining threads of light. Its outline flickered constantly, never settling into a fixed shape, as if it were caught in a perpetual state of transformation. The countless lines crisscrossing the sky extended from this figure's body, like blood vessels spreading throughout the world. The sight left Jiang Chengxuan and his companions in awe. Before their eyes, the figure began to stir. Slowly but surely, it rose from the void, turning to face them directly. Its face bore no featureless euros, no eyes, no mouth, no nausea euros, only endlessly twisting lines and threads that spiraled into a vortex. Chapter 1403. The Avatar of the Tree of Calamity, The World of Contours, Part 2. Chapter 1403. The Avatar of the Tree of Calamity, The World of Contours, Part 2. At the very center of the swirling vortex, a faint, hazy object was embedded, resembling a distant flickering flame seen from afar. Buzz, buzz, buzz. In that instant, as the humanoid figure rose to its full height, the countless outlines scattered throughout the void began to tremble and surge. With each eerie pulse and hum, the outlines glowed fiercely, like taut threads snapping and whipping wildly through the air. Suddenly, bright fractures appeared in the space, forming a dense grid of lines that easily sliced through the surrounding space. Jiang Chengxuan and his companions were not spared from the assault. In the blink of an eye, countless luminous outlines slashed toward them. Defend! Reacting instantly, Jiang Chengxuan activated the power of his primordial water and fire sword. The terrifying force of the primordial water and fire surged outward in all directions with overwhelming dominance. Yet to their surprise, this time, the normally unstoppable force of the sword was met with resistance. Boom! A deafening explosion erupted in the void, as the blurred outlines severed even the mighty force of the primordial water and fire. Like cutting through cloth, the power was shattered into fragments and scattered into the air. Despite the brief delay, the outlines continued their assault, sharp and relentless. Xuanhen Immortal and Fuguang Immortal wasted no time, unleashing their own powers to resist. They summoned grand visions, manifesting their laws, filling the sky with radiance and auspicious light. But the next scene left them all gasping. In an instant, the indistinct outlines collided with the laws of the Xuanhen and Fuguang Immortals, effortlessly slicing through their visions. The brilliant lights of their manifestations flickered and dimmed, as the once vast illusions were punctured and dissolved, like a massive bubble being popped. These were the laws of Earth Immortals, yet they were cut down with such ease by this strange force. The sight sent a chill through Jiang Chengxuan's heart. These blurred outlines were far too strange euros. They could even sever the projected laws of Earth Immortals, something he had never seen before. Clearly, these outlines were not ordinary objects. They existed in a half-real, half-illusory state, capable of severing not only physical objects, but also the intangible manifestations of celestial power. Boom! 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 In moments, the outlines had carved deep fissures into the space around them, triggering explosions of chaotic energy that engulfed Jiang Chengxuan and his companions. Yet by leveraging their immense strength, the three immortals managed to dodge the lethal strikes at the last possible second, leaving behind faint afterimages in the void. Then from the sky above, the avatar of the Tree of Calamity spoke, uttering an ancient, cryptic riddle. At the same time, the dazzling lights in the heavens grew even brighter, and the outlines scattered throughout the world became clearer and sharper. It was as if golden flames coursed through the blurred outlines, igniting sparks that resembled sprouting branches and leaves. In the blink of an eye, the entire realm had transformed into the interior of a giant, burning golden tree. The branches and leaves of the tree blazed intensely, and the very atmosphere became violently turbulent. Jiang Chengxuan and his companions felt a surge of power within themselves, as though their blood was boiling, causing their strength to skyrocket. To their surprise, this burning energy did not harm them. Instead, it made them feel more powerful. Could it be that the avatar of the Tree of Calamity was benevolent? But they quickly realized the sinister nature of the situation. As the golden tree continued to burn, the energy within them surged, but their blessed lands, which served as the source of their power, were slowly drying up. The flow of origin energy, which their blessed lands naturally provided, was being cut off. The Tree of Calamity's power wasn't enhancing Thema Euros, it was forcibly absorbing their energy. The only reason they could still use that energy was because it hadn't fully drained yet. Damn it, so that's how it works. The realization hit them like a cold wave. They understood that unless they found a way to break this sorcery, their time was severely limited. As long as they remained within this world, their strength would be continuously siphoned away. Worse, the strange energy in the air prevented them from replenishing their power. Even their blessed lands could no longer generate celestial energy. All-out attack. With no other options, Jiang Chengxuan roared and charged forward, unleashing all his celestial energy in a blinding arc of light. The primordial water and fire sword flared to life, carving a massive swathe through the void, its power swelling beyond its usual limits due to the strange conditions. Kill. Not to be outdone, Xuanhen and Fuguang immortals also rallied their strength and rushed toward the avatar of the Tree of Calamity. Under the blazing golden branches, the three of them took their positions, their immense celestial power crashing toward the foe. Buzz, buzz, buzz. The golden outlines responded immediately, sensing their approach. Like a vast web, the lines stretched out, forming a celestial net that descended upon them. It was as though the heavens were falling, with golden fissures slicing down like rivers of light. But this time, Jiang Chengxuan and his allies did not retreat. They were determined to test the limits of these strange contours. Without hesitation, they unleashed their full might, manifesting their divine powers as they charged head-on. Boom! In a flash, countless golden threads descended, effortlessly slicing through the space around them and severing the manifestations of the three immortals. But Jiang Chengxuan remained undaunted. His cold gaze fixed on the target, he swung the primordial water and fire sword in a flurry of strikes, unleashing hundreds of sword beams in rapid succession. The web of primordial water and fire expanded, spreading across the sky until it overlapped with the burning golden contours, igniting a massive explosion. At last, Jiang Chengxuan's relentless assault had stopped the outlines in their tracks. The burning lines in the primordial water and fire twisted and clashed, their powers surging to their peak. In an instant, the surrounding area, stretching for hundreds of miles, was consumed by a sea of flames. The golden fire burned like stars, illuminating the entire realm. Strike! Seeing this, Xuanhen and Fuguang immortals followed suit, gathering their strength into webs of power that clashed with the golden outlines. The effect was immediate. The outlines' power was greatly diminished as their connection to the world weakened. It seemed the key to overcoming these contours was to engage them directly. Rather than avoiding them, they needed to touch the outlines as much as possible to interact with their true nature. Boom! 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 The opportunity was clear, and with newfound determination, Jiang Chengxuan and his companions pressed forward, breaking through the layers of outlines as they pushed ever closer to the avatar of the Tree of Calamity. Chapter 1404, Joint Attack on the Avatar, the Power of the Calamity Weapon, Part 1. Chapter 1404, Joint Attack on the Avatar, the Power of the Calamity Weapon, Part 1. Under the shadow of the burning golden tree, Jiang Chengxuan and his companions were engulfed in flames, their figures resembling brilliant stars cutting through layers of sealed space as they charged upward against the heavens. All around them, the burning outlines swayed wildly like vines amidst the chaotic storm of energy, threatening to block their path. These outlines held a power that not even mighty earth immortals like Jiang Chengxuan could face head-on. Even the might of his primordial water and fire sword would be sliced apart. Their only recourse was to focus their senses to the utmost, pushing their perception to its limits to anticipate the movements of these outlines. By precisely overlapping their origin energy with the lines at the moment of collision, they could trigger a detonation. Golden light surged upward as the outlines exploded upon contact, painting radiant patterns across the sky, creating a grand and mysterious scene. It was as if an enormous cage, woven from strange runes, had materialized, emanating a terrifying energy that turned and spun like the wheel of samsara across the heavens. This powerful energy resonated with the profound forces that filled this world, gradually forming tides of pressure that bore down upon Jiang Chengxuan and his companions. The trio had no choice but to unleash the full power of their blessed lands to cut through the overwhelming pressure and continue their charge forward. Before long, having drawn out the potential hidden within themselves through the stimulation of the Tree of Calamity's divine ability, the trio had reached a position close to the ninth heaven. In their minds, a blazing imprint burned intensely, searing itself into their consciousness like fiery brands. These imprints were the result of their repeated interaction with the essence of the outlines, which contained an ancient power that caused their divine senses to stir and become restless. "Let's see what you really are," Jiang Chengxuan muttered coldly, his expression serious. With a sharp breath, he cleared his mind of distractions and lunged toward the avatar of the Tree of Calamity, slashing his sword down in a single, decisive strike. In that instant, the full power of a mid-level Earth immortal burst forth like a galaxy cascading from the sky. The infinite force of the primordial water and fire sword was enhanced by the laws of the five elements, samsara, and life and death, creating an awe-inspiring force that shook the heavens. Euros. In the blink of an eye, Jiang Chengxuan saw the swirling vortex of the Tree of Calamity's avatar twist and shift as it uttered another cryptic phrase in an ancient tongue. The avatar's response was calm and measured as a golden arm extended slowly, then suddenly clenched its fist in response to Jiang Chengxuan's attack. The surrounding void distorted instantly, and for miles in every direction, radiant runes etched into the fabric of reality burst forth, unleashing an eerie force. Waves of overwhelming power crashed down on Jiang Chengxuan, twisting and wrenching the very space around him. Even with his composure, Jiang Chengxuan felt a brief moment of suffocation. The attack had been swift and almost impossible to anticipate. Fortunately, countless battles had honed his reflexes to perfection. He reacted quickly, twisting his sword in a flourish and drawing it back to his side, creating a perfect crescent arc with a sweeping slash. Boom! The immense power of the primordial water and fire spun like a wheel beneath the heavens, colliding with the mysterious force, triggering a thunderous explosion. Lightning crackled across the sky, filling the air with deafening roars. But Jiang Chengxuan had no intention of retreating. As his sword clashed with the force, he summoned a massive celestial axe from his blessed land, towering hundreds of feet high. The axe replaced the sword in his hands, and with a single motion, he swung it down toward the avatar of the Tree of Calamity, as if splitting a mountain in two. It had only been a moment, but by the time the explosive power reached its peak, Xuanhen Immortal and Fuguang Immortal had only just registered the attack. In their eyes, the colossal axe descended with terrifying power, tearing through the void. Yet the avatar of the Tree of Calamity remained unmoved. Its single golden arm reached upward, grasping at the falling axe. As the axe collided with the avatar's hand, thunder boomed again and again, the clash of their powers sending shockwaves through the sky. But despite its size and the power behind it, the avatar's hand did not waver. Though small compared to the massive axe, it held firm, as if it had the strength to move mountains. Xuanhen and Fuguang Immortals watched in astonishment as the avatar tightened its grip, causing the enormous axe to bend and dent. The pressure intensified, and red lightning flashed across the sky, casting an ominous glow on their faces as the axe began to crumble, breaking apart like a shattered mountain range. Boom! With a final, earth-shattering sound, the massive axe disintegrated in the avatar's hand, reduced to dust and falling like meteors to the ground below, the fiery fragments igniting the sky. Jiang Chengxuan's celestial axe had been crushed in the avatar's grasp, and both Xuanhen and Fuguang Immortals gasped in shock, their minds reeling. The avatar had not only demonstrated overwhelming physical power, but had also negated the laws imbued within the axe, an Earth immortal-level treasure. Though the axe wasn't among the most extraordinary treasures, it was still formidable enough to challenge most beings. That the avatar had destroyed it so easily was stunning even to Jiang Chengxuan himself. Attack! All at once. Without missing a beat, Jiang Chengxuan roared to his companions, commanding them to press the offensive. Chapter 1405. Joint Attack on the Avatar, the Power of the Calamity Weapon, Part 2. Chapter 1405. Joint Attack on the Avatar, the Power of the Calamity Weapon, Part 2. No matter the cost, they could not allow their momentum to falter. The strange divine ability that had surrounded them still lingered, and the power within their Earth immortal-level blessed lands continued to surge uncontrollably, forcing their strength to the surface. Let's go. Attack together. Kill. Upon hearing Jiang Chengxuan's command, both Xuanhen and Fuguang Immortals cleared their minds of distractions and unleashed their immense primordial energies, cutting through the void. The three of them each took a position, forming a triangular formation. Each of their power euros, Xuanhen's brilliant extreme light, Fuguang's radiant blessed light, and Jiang Chengxuan's mysterious five-element divine light euros shrouded the sky, pressing down upon the avatar of the Tree of Calamity. This time, the avatar could no longer remain passive. Even with its overwhelming strength, it could not face the combined assault of 3 Earth immortals without retaliation. Buzz euros. In an instant, a strange humming sound resonated, and searing divine light erupted from the avatar's body, exuding an ancient, oppressive aura. Facing the trio's encirclement, the avatar's form bent slightly, and countless golden threads burst forth from its back, forming what seemed like a simple, glowing outline of the sun. In mere moments, the golden threads pierced the void, shooting towards Jiang Chengxuan and the others like a storm of arrows. With just one glance, it was clear that these threads were no different from the earlier slashing outlines euros, capable of cutting through anything with ease. Even the Earth immortals knew they could not take these threads head-on. Without hesitation, they spread apart, relying on their speed and skill to evade the oncoming torrent of golden light. Buzz euros. But the avatar was not finished. It surged forward with countless golden threads trailing behind it, moving with the agility of a comet as it charged toward its enemies, intent on crushing them. The 4 figures soon clashed in the sky, with the primordial water and fire of Jiang Chengxuan, Xuanhen's extreme light, and Fuguang's blessed light colliding with the golden threads. Despite the trio's combined might, the avatar's dominance was undeniable. Its golden threads easily sliced through their attacks, be they elemental laws or the power of their origin energy. The golden torrent stretched and whipped across the sky, slicing through space in all directions, causing the world itself to flicker. The trio found themselves forced into retreat, utilizing their numbers to wear the avatar down through hit-and-run tactics, rather than engaging head-on. The intense battle soon reached a fevered pitch, with vast stretches of space tearing apart, unleashing lightning storms and chaotic tempests of origin energy. Yet the strange world they fought in absorbed much of the collateral damage, converting the unleashed energies into faint outlines that faded into the void. Each clash echoed like a ringing bell, the sound waves resonating throughout the sky as golden light and power swirled together in a grand spectacle. Jiang Chengxuan's expression grew darker with every moment. He could no longer afford to hold anything back. His final trump card had to be played. Boom! A clap of thunder reverberated, and a black aura shot toward the heavens. From within Jiang Chengxuan's blessed land, he summoned forth the calamity weapon, a black blade brimming with the aura of destruction. The blade was forged from the power of calamity itself. The moment the calamity weapon was unleashed, boundless waves of destructive energy spread like ink through water, tainting the golden world around them with deep shades of black. The calamity weapon had been infused with pure calamity energy, and Jiang Chengxuan had been nurturing it to its peak, waiting for the perfect moment to unleash its might and turn the tide of battle. For the calamity weapon to reveal its true power, it required a sacrifice of pure calamity energy. Only then could its terrifying strength be unleashed for a short period. Jiang Chengxuan had not expected to use the weapon so early in the battle, but under the oppressive abilities of the avatar, which had been draining their strength, he had no choice. Calamity light, return to your origin. Without hesitation, Jiang Chengxuan cast aside all distractions and focused entirely on his attack. The black aura surrounding the calamity weapon surged outward like a storm. In his hand, the weapon gleamed like a black crescent moon, and with a mighty sweep, he slashed it towards the avatar of the Tree of Calamity. The slash was simple and direct, yet overwhelmingly powerful. Even the strange forces in the void parted before it, and the invisible suppression they had been under began to fade away. The vast power of the calamity engulfed the sky, casting a shadow over everything. For the first time, the avatar hesitated. The oppressive force of the calamity caused it to retreat, its countless golden threads shooting toward the black energy to counter the incoming strike. Boom! Boom! The clash was immediate and devastating. As the two powers met, an explosion shook the heavens, and the golden threads were finally met with resistance. The calamity weapon tore through them, severing countless threads and reducing them to golden dust. Wherever the black energy passed, it was as if a chasm opened in the heavens, cutting through everything in its path. Even the dense network of golden outlines in the sky could not withstand the might of the calamity weapon, and were sliced apart and erased from existence. Xuanhen and Fuguang immortals watched in awe. For the first time since entering this strange realm, they had seen the oppressive powers of the Avatar halted. Every spell, treasure, and technique they had tried before had been suppressed, leaving them at a disadvantage. But now, with Jiang Chengxuan's calamity weapon, they finally had a means to turn the tide. Boom! 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 With his ultimate weapon revealed, Jiang Chengxuan was determined to end the battle swiftly. He had no intention of holding back any longer, as retreat was no longer an option. The sense of a do-or-die battle filled his heart, igniting his fighting spirit. The black light of the calamity weapon surged again and again, cutting through the sky like a reaper's scythe. Each swing of the blade unleashed calamity energy, spreading disaster across the battlefield like an unstoppable force of nature. Golden trees and outlines crumbled beneath the weapon's power, and the avatar of the Tree of Calamity was forced into a relentless retreat. Despite its golden threads continuing to shoot out, they were no match for the calamity weapon's devastating strikes. Soon, Jiang Chengxuan was fully immersed in the power of the calamity weapon, his body bathed in the black aura of pure destruction. He stood like a dark star, his presence sharp and unstoppable. The world itself seemed to be slipping out of the avatar's control, as Jiang Chengxuan's calamity energy spread throughout, severing the avatar's influence. Buzza Euros. The avatar, seemingly enraged, let out a long, resonant hum. Its golden outline spun wildly, and its form began to swell, growing more massive. Fiery golden light poured from its cracks, burning even brighter than before. As Jiang Chengxuan unleashed another strike, the avatar raised its arm to meet the black light, conjuring a colossal golden tree-like figure to counter the slash. Endless golden light and symbols collided with the black crescent of calamity, filling the sky with an explosive display of power. Both Xuanhen and Fuguang immortals couldn't help but feel a deep sense of dread. Chapter 1406, A Moment of Failure, A Forming Cave Heaven, Part 1. Chapter 1406, A Moment of Failure, A Forming Cave Heaven, Part 1. At this moment, amidst the battlefield in the void, the power that was unleashed had already far exceeded what ordinary Earth immortal cultivators could handle. With the might of the calamity weapon, Jiang Chengxuan's attacks and techniques transcended the mid-Earth immortal realm, faintly approaching the late-Earth immortal stage. On the opposite side, the enraged avatar of the Tree of Calamity was no longer holding back, revealing its full strength and abilities. Being intrinsically connected to this realm, protected by the laws of heaven and earth, and empowered by its strange outlined divine abilities, the avatar's strength also reached terrifying heights, nearly matching the late-Earth immortal stage. The battle between these two forces had surpassed anything witnessed in the last million years, becoming a cosmic clash beyond imagination. Boundless black aura and golden flames intertwined above the nine heavens, spreading out over hundreds, thousands, and eventually tens of thousands of miles. In the eyes of Xuanhen and Fuguang immortals, who watched in awe and shock, the entire world seemed to be swallowed by the aftermath of the combat, as if it had become a miniature universe. The forces at play were like the powers of creation, forming a colossal vortex resembling a galaxy in the cosmos. Had this battle taken place in the mortal realm, Xuanhen and Fuguang couldn't even fathom the devastation it would have cost a Euros. Perhaps even the entire western continent of the immortal domain would have been laid to waste. 5 elements. Reincarnation. Life and death. With the calamity weapon in hand, Jiang Chengxuan felt an unprecedented surge of power coursing through him. While weaving through the chaotic storm, he used the calamity weapon to slice through the avatar's attacks, channeling the power of his blessed land to ignite the might of his 3 great laws. In front of him, amidst the destructive aura of the calamity energy, an invisible force was present. The merging of these two energies was what allowed him to sever the golden threads of the avatar, dissolving them into nothingness. Rara Euros. Even as the avatar unleashed all its strength, wielding the profound forces of this realm, it found itself hindered by the calamity weapon. The chaotic calamity energy disrupted the very laws of this world, making it difficult for the avatar to fully harness the realm's power. Though the avatar was the mastermind behind the great calamity, the calamity weapon's power was no ordinary calamity energy. It had been transformed into a mystical force, infused with the wisdom and techniques of ancient sages, rivaling the primordial forces of this strange realm, which combined the origin of the world and chaotic energy. Let's go. We must help Xianxia. Agreed. Let's move. As the battle reached a more stable point, with the chaos slightly abating, Xianxia and Fuguang immortals realized that the moment for action was now. Without hesitation, they roared and surged forward, activating the power of their blessed lands and joining the fray against the Avatar. Boom! With Jiang Chengxuan as the central point of attack and Xianxia and Fuguang supporting him, the trio, for the first time, managed to suppress the Avatar of the Tree of Calamity. Whenever the Avatar attempted to use its golden threads to counter, Jiang Chengxuan would strike first, severing the threads with the Calamity weapon. With the Avatar's strongest and most bizarre technique neutralized, Xianxia and Fuguang immortals could finally engage the Avatar without fear. The two of them, wielding their celestial treasures, concentrated their primordial energy into lethal strikes from strategic angles, attacking the Avatar relentlessly. Despite its overwhelming power, the Avatar let out enraged roars as its body erupted in bursts of golden light and flames, attempting to incinerate everything around it. However, before it could unleash its full might, the black aura from the Calamity weapon would engulf it, extinguishing the flames and snuffing out its rage. Amidst the inky storm of destruction, the battle reached its peak. Every clash, every explosive burst of energy carried the breath of world-ending power. Time itself seemed to lose meaning as the fabric of space, and time twisted under the strain of their combat. Each combatant fought with lethal intent, pouring their entire being into the battle, as if it would never end. But nothing lasts forever. Despite the intense, seemingly endless fight, a turning point finally approached. As time wore on, the Calamity weapon in Jiang Chengxuan's hands began to dim. The once brilliant black light that had emanated from it when it was first summoned now flickered weakly, losing much of its former strength. The clash with the Avatar had drained the Calamity weapon of its most precious resource, the Calamity essence. Each strike consumed vast amounts of this essence, and even Jiang Chengxuan's reserves, accumulated over millennia of suppressing calamities, had nearly run dry. Euros. Opposite him, despite the grievous injuries it had sustained, the Avatar of the Tree of Calamity still stood. Though its form was riddled with deep gashes, like a cage that had been violently torn open, and its golden threads hung loosely from its body, the Avatar remained resilient. The black light from the Calamity weapon flickered weakly over the wounds it had inflicted on the Avatar. Chapter 1407, A Moment of Failure, The Forming Cave Heaven, Part 2. Chapter 1407, A Moment of Failure, The Forming Cave Heaven, Part 2. Even the golden threads, which had previously been impossible to touch, were now suppressed by the overwhelming force. Despite the fact that the Tree of Calamity's Avatar was now drenched in its own dimming golden light, and its body was severely damaged, Jiang Chengxuan and the others knew that in this peculiar realm, a hidden power was continuously seeping through the void into the Avatar, slowly healing its wounds. The strange golden threads that had been severed countless times by Jiang Chengxuan continued to writhe and regenerate, never fully dying. In contrast, Jiang Chengxuan and his companions were in dire straits. The peak battle had left them in a desperate situation, with no external resources to draw upon. They could only rely on the celestial energy stored within their blessed lands and a few medicinal pills to maintain their abilities, fueling their divine powers and celestial treasures. But in a battle at the level of Earth immortals, such supplies were woefully insufficient. Against an enemy like the Avatar, who seemed favored by the heavens themselves, they were fighting not just a powerful foe, but the very forces of heaven and earth. The fight was incredibly dangerous, and though they had some opportunities to turn the tide, the Avatar had always managed to slip through, escaping death. Each missed opportunity brought them closer to defeat. As time wore on, the trio's celestial energy and vital essence were nearly exhausted. They could no longer push their celestial treasures to their peak power. Beneath the shattered sky, the abyss carved by the Calamity weapon gradually dissipated, scattering into flickering specks of light. The Tree of Calamity's Avatar spread its arms wide and let out a deafening roar, shaking the heavens. After enduring the relentless suppression of Jiang Chengxuan and his comrades, it had finally found a chance to reverse the situation. Xianxia and Fuguang immortals, seeing this, felt a deep sense of despair settle over them, their hearts sinking like lead. They had given everything they had in this battle, hoping that the rare opportunity they had seized would be enough to destroy the Avatar once and for all. They had even resorted to techniques that involved self-sacrifice and severe backlash to gain an advantage in their attacks. Now both Xuanhen and Fuguang were seriously injured, their celestial robes in tatters, their treasures damaged, and their breaths unsteady. And with the Avatar now withstanding their most intense onslaught, it seemed inevitable that the battle was lost. For them, there were no more tricks or powers left to turn the tide. The Avatar of the Tree of Calamity possessed powers far beyond the norm for an Earth immortal. It was on the verge of claiming victory. But just as everything seemed on the brink of collapse, Jiang Chengxuan's eyes narrowed sharply. To everyone's astonishment, in a split second, he made a silent, fierce move once more. At the moment when everyone thought he had exhausted his strength, the aura of the calamity weapon in his hand suddenly surged. In an instant, its power rose to its peak once again. The Avatar's body trembled as the calamity weapon, radiating a cold, black light, shot forward like a deadly comet. In the blink of an eye, the weapon cut through layers of spatial barriers and pierced through the air toward the Avatar's head. The strike was swift, decisive, and utterly overpowering. It was the final trump card that Jiang Chengxuan had been meticulously preparing. He had secretly stored the last bit of calamity essence within his blessed land, slowly integrating it into the calamity weapon during the fight, waiting for the exact moment when the Avatar of the Tree of Calamity would relax its guard to unleash this fatal blow. Even though the Avatar had the protection of the realm, it couldn't react in time. The black calamity weapon, carrying enough destructive power to instantly kill an Earth immortal, tore through the Avatar's twisted visage. The golden threads forming the Avatar's face unraveled under the sheer force of the weapon, breaking apart like fractured skin, revealing a strange, chaotic void beneath. Jiang Chengxuan twisted the calamity weapon in his grip, fully unleashing its power. The immense, star-like energy of the calamity engulfed the realm in darkness, pouring endless destruction into the Avatar's body through this fatal opening. Not even Jiang Chengxuan himself believed he could survive such an attack. But even as the moment of triumph approached, a strange sense of unease gnawed at him. He dared not lower his guard, remaining focused as he drove the blade further. Bizizizizi. 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 In the life and death instant that followed, the Avatar of the Tree of Calamity unleashed a flurry of strange vibrations. The surrounding space trembled violently, twisting and distorting, making it hard to see anything clearly. Mysterious energy surged from the broken visage of the Avatar, resisting the calamity weapon's assault. The space around them was twisted to its limits, and each inch the weapon moved forward felt like it bore the weight of 1,000 worlds. Despite the searing pain and the emptiness of his celestial energy, Jiang Chengxuan did not falter. With steely resolve, he pressed on, determined to drive the calamity weapon deep into the Avatar's head. He knew this was their only chance to win. This was the best and final opportunity to end the battle. The cost of failure was unthinkable. Boom, boom, boom. The last stretch felt agonizingly long. Each millimeter the calamity weapon advanced unleashed massive shockwaves, causing the world to shake and twist. The energy unleashed was so overwhelming that Xuanhen and Fuguang immortals couldn't get close. They watched anxiously from afar as the weapon inched deeper into the Avatar. But just as the front half of the calamity weapon was about to fully penetrate the Avatar's head, the sudden catastrophe Jiang Chengxuan had feared finally struck. At that moment, from the swirling vortex on the Avatar's face, the hazy glow at its center erupted with a terrifying aura. A devouring power, vast and all-encompassing, burst forth. The indistinct light, resembling ancient brilliance, forcefully halted the calamity weapon's advance, pushing it back inch by inch. In an instant, the Avatar's singular eye flared with full power, and Jiang Chengxuan, along with his comrades, felt their very souls tremble. It was as if they had stepped into an unknown, mysterious realm of Euros, a place far beyond the reach of ordinary understanding. It felt like another immortal domain, with laws far older and more powerful, teeming with primordial energy beyond the Earth immortal level. It was as though they had encountered the fabled cave heaven of a celestial immortal, a realm of unimaginable power. The shimmering force emanating from the Avatar's face was none other than the embryonic form of a celestial immortal's cave heaven. Under the overwhelming pressure of this cave heaven's nascent power, even with Jiang Chengxuan gritting his teeth and pushing with all his might, the calamity weapon was inexorably repelled. The final, decisive blow fell just short of Euros. He had failed to drive the blade that crucial last inch. In the face of the cave heaven's power, the entire realm was purified. The endless calamity energy that had filled the air vanished in an instant, and the black light of the calamity weapon was rapidly being erased. Jiang Chengxuan had no way to stop this. The power at play had surpassed anything he could comprehend. And now there was no doubt. Once the calamity weapon's power was completely extinguished, he would be the first to be swallowed by this mighty force. In that moment, he felt the cold hand of death closing in. Is this the end? Both Xuanhen and Fuguang thought, overwhelmed with despair. This battle had consumed all the luck and fortune of the Western continent. Would it all end in failure, ushering in its destruction? Under the oppressive aura of the cave heaven's nascent power, they could no longer sense their blessed lands. Even if they wished to fight to the death, they were powerless to act. No, it's not over yet. Amidst the chaos, Jiang Chengxuan's eyes remained resolute. He refused to give up. As the light of the calamity weapon dimmed, he let out a final, defiant roar. At that moment, the avatar of the Tree of Calamity was also at its limit. Unleashing such immense power had exacted a severe toll on it. If Jiang Chengxuan could endure this final attack, victory could still be within their grasp. No matter how overwhelming the power of the cave heaven seemed, in Jiang Chengxuan's heart, there was no room for surrender. From start to finish, victory would always belong to those who believed in it, not those who gave up. Chapter 1408, Offering the Blessed Land, the End of the Battle, Part 1. Chapter 1408, Offering the Blessed Land, the End of the Battle, Part 1. In an instant, the world reversed. The heavens and earth spun in chaos, and under the terrifying power of the embryonic celestial immortal cave heaven formed by the avatar of the Tree of Calamity, the entire universe fell into a deafening silence. The world was swallowed by an endless radiance, leaving Jiang Chengxuan and his companions surrounded by a desolate and blinding scene. At the center of this surreal landscape, the avatar stood like a god, radiating an aura of overwhelming power. The gaping cracks across its body resembled ancient runes, brimming with an awe-inspiring might. The boundless golden light had condensed into a scorching sun, burning the heavens and earth. Fuguang Immortal and Xuanhen Immortal, barely standing, had exhausted their energy just fending off the residual forces, while Jiang Chengxuan, at the forefront, still maintained his stance of wielding the calamity weapon. Yet the weapon's power had largely faded, and like Jiang Chengxuan himself, it flickered dimly, as if it were a candle struggling against the wind. As the strength of the calamity weapon ebbed away, Jiang Chengxuan's celestial robe caught fire in small sparks. His earth immortal blessed land trembled violently, seemingly on the verge of being shattered. The avatar's grotesque, fractured face twisted into something resembling a sneer, its disdain evident. Though it had been pushed to its limit, once it absorbed the energy from Jiang Chengxuan and his companions' blessed lands, it would undergo an evolution. Afterward, it would devour the entire power of the Western continent, fully forming the embryonic celestial immortal cave heaven, enabling it to ascend to new heights. The mere thought stirred the will of the great calamity, and its unleashed power grew even more ferocious, as if it were about to annihilate everything. Boom! 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 At this moment, the calamity weapon in Jiang Chengxuan's hand finally exhausted its last bit of power. With the roaring of thunder, its energy dissipated completely. In the next second, the monstrous force emanating from the avatar of the Tree of Calamity surged forward like a collapsing universe, cascading down like an unstoppable river, aiming to obliterate Jiang Chengxuan. For a brief moment, beneath this immense force, Jiang Chengxuan felt more insignificant than ever before, as though he had returned to the days before entering the immortal realm. Yet even now, he did not despair. He still had one last card to play. Facing impending destruction, Jiang Chengxuan remained calm. With a wave of his right hand, several beams of light shot out from his storage ring and fell into his grasp. They were like miniature black stars, emanating a faint, mysterious glow of Euros, none other than the transcendence pills he had prepared. However, Jiang Chengxuan did not intend to consume them. Against this monstrous force, merely taking the pills would be futile. After all, the avatar, though it commanded the power of the great calamity, was wielding energy far beyond simple calamity force. The transcendence pills would be of no help. What Jiang Chengxuan had truly prepared was something else altogether. Alongside the transcendence pills, he held a small vial of spirit liquid, resembling a bright crimson essence, with faint, transparent outlines swirling inside. This was his final trump card. With a sharp, determined gaze, Jiang Chengxuan uncorked the vial and unhesitatingly poured the spirit liquid onto the transcendence pills in his hand. Instantly, scarlet flames erupted from the pills, and the once black star-like transcendence pills ignited in a blazing inferno. As the flames surged, a tremendous force burst forth from within the pills, causing the surrounding void to tremble, forming a vast, deep pool of energy. From this pool, endless calamity essence radiated outward, rippling through the air and stirring the void around it. Remarkably, calamity essence had been conjured once more in this realm through Jiang Chengxuan's means. This spirit liquid had been one of Jiang Chengxuan's experimental ideas during his early research on transcendence pills. At that time, he had wondered if there was a way to reverse the refined calamity essence, restoring it to its original state, which would reduce the cost of refining the pills. However, the method, though promising, required such rare and valuable resources that it became impractical. Eventually, his research shifted to refining the transcendence pills directly, and he abandoned the project. But when Jiang Chengxuan later obtained the calamity weapon, calamity essence became an invaluable resource once more. He resumed his research, ultimately creating this spirit liquid, which could reconstitute the calamity essence from the pills. Boom, boom, boom. At that moment, in Jiang Chengxuan's hands, waves of calamity essence roared into existence, and without hesitation, he poured all of it into the now dim calamity weapon. Streams of strange, ethereal calamity essence, resembling serpents, eagles, and even divine weapons, swirled and merged into the calamity weapon, each fragment of essence giving it new life. As the vast calamity essence flooded into the weapon, its power surged to its peak once more. Under the blazing sun of the Avatar's overwhelming energy, a small black star began to glimmer with renewed brilliance, ready for its final strike. Suddenly, the calamity weapon surged in power, standing tall at the center of the world. A force unlike that of the Avatar of the Tree of Calamity emerged, cutting through its restraints and standing in defiance, revealing itself to the heavens and earth. It was truly a moment of hope, as if light had pierced through the darkest of tunnels. This incredible scene caused a tremor in the hearts of Quanhin Immortal and Fuguang Immortal. Then, joy surged through them. Neither of them had imagined, after enduring so many life-or-death struggles and endless battles, that Jiang Chengxuan would still have such a trump card. And not only did this power rival that of the Avatar, but it even seemed to have the potential to surpass it. Both immortals held their breath, fixated on the distant battle. Although they couldn't clearly see what was happening, they silently lent their support to Jiang Chengxuan, hoping he would prevail. Boom! With the calamity weapon fully unleashed, Jiang Chengxuan wasted no time. Gripping the weapon tightly, he slashed at the Avatar of the Tree of Calamity with swift, relentless strikes. The distance between them had closed considerably, and each inch the calamity weapon advanced triggered a violent clash with the Avatar's power, sending shockwaves rippling through the void. In mere moments, the two vast forces clashed hundreds of times. The void, already fragile, shattered completely, as chaotic energy surged in a destructive whirlwind. Infinite light, both white and black, collided, devouring one another, drowning the world in an ever-changing battle between light and dark. Submit to me. Within the storm, Jiang Chengxuan's eyes burned with resolve, his long hair wildly whipping in the wind. With a fierce shout, he gripped the calamity weapon with both hands and threw all his remaining energy into the strike. At this point, it was all or nothing. All his remaining essence and celestial energy were poured into this final, desperate effort. Behind him, his earth-immortal blessed land was on the verge of collapse, consumed by chaos. The five elements, the reincarnation cycle, and life and death laws manifested in wild, frenzied visions, as their essence was drawn from the land and funneled into Jiang Chengxuan's body. In this whirlwind of power, Jiang Chengxuan's ears rang with deafening roars, his vision filled with nothing but the endless golden force of the Avatar and its grotesque, twisted visage. But this time, despite the immense power infused into the calamity weapon, it could no longer fully suppress the Avatar. Even with more primal energy at its disposal, since the appearance of the embryonic celestial immortal cave heaven, the calamity weapon's might was insufficient to change the course of the battle. The power of the celestial immortal cave heaven, even in its incomplete state, was beyond anything a mere earth immortal could resist. Not even the calamity weapon could overcome it. Gradually, as the ferocious battle dragged on, Jiang Chengxuan began to falter. The avatar, now emboldened, relentlessly forced him back, suppressing him inch by inch. Above them, golden light flared brighter, summoning countless invisible threads, which encased the void like a prison, slowly devouring the black light of the calamity weapon. Seeing this, the hope that had briefly flickered in the hearts of Chuanhen Immortal and Fuguang Immortal was once again snuffed out. Their spirits plummeted into despair. Although they couldn't fully comprehend the power radiating from the avatar's head, they knew it far surpassed anything they had ever encountered. Despite Jiang Chengxuan's renewed effort with the calamity weapon, it seemed impossible to suppress the avatar now. Was this how it would end? Would the fate of the Western continent be sealed in destruction? Despair crept into their minds, threatening to take hold, but Jiang Chengxuan was resolute. He had only one answer: never. Never. Feeling the calamity weapon's energy slowly being drained, Jiang Chengxuan let out a low growl. Realizing that the stalemate couldn't be broken with his current approach, he made a drastic decision. In the moment when the world seemed on the brink of annihilation, Jiang Chengxuan withdrew the calamity weapon, an action akin to cutting off his own limb, leaving himself vulnerable to the avatar's onslaught. This sudden move stunned not only Xuanhen and Fuguang Immortal, but also the avatar itself. However, the avatar didn't care about Jiang Chengxuan's intentions and continued its assault. Regardless of what Jiang Chengxuan was planning, the avatar was intent on crushing him with sheer force. But in the midst of the avatar's attack, Jiang Chengxuan remained unshaken, his expression calm, his robe billowing in the wind. He unleashed his blessed land, sending it hurtling directly toward the avatar, as if sacrificing it. This move was suicidal. Normally, an Earth Immortal's blessed land was a potent offensive tool, but in the heat of battle, it was also a crucial weak point that had to be carefully protected. If a blessed land were destroyed in combat, the wielder would be doomed. And now, Jiang Chengxuan had recklessly sent his own blessed land into the heart of the avatar's power, where it was instantly battered by the destructive force. Recoil shook his body, splitting open new wounds. Yet despite the agonizing pain, Jiang Chengxuan persisted, driving his blessed land toward the avatar. Cracks spread rapidly across his blessed land, where mountains crumbled and rivers reversed course. Within this chaos, however, a final glimmer of life emerged. In that instant, beneath the shattered mountains and the ultimate surge of destruction, a peculiar black light exploded from a crack. It was the calamity weapon, which had been hidden within his blessed land all along. Now, it absorbed the shattered essence of the land itself, refining and drawing strength from it. Jiang Chengxuan was offering his blessed land as a sacrifice, forging an overwhelming force of destruction to push the calamity weapon beyond its limits. Once again, the shockwaves of the blessed land's collapse reverberated through the void. And this time, the calamity weapon surged with unstoppable power, towering like a pillar that reached from earth to sky, forcing a gap in the avatar's suppression. A curtain of blackness unfolded, fighting back against the avatar's celestial immortal cave heaven. As Xuanhen Immortal and Fuguang Immortal looked on in awe and admiration, Jiang Chengxuan, bloodied and broken, pressed forward without hesitation. With his blessed land in ruins behind him, he raised the calamity weapon high and slashed toward the avatar's looming form. The avatar had no time to react. It lashed out, but the strike was already upon it. Boom, boom, boom. The explosion of force devoured the entire world, as chaos, gold and black light clashed like titanic hands reshaping the heavens. Xuanhen and Fuguang were sent flying hundreds of miles by the shockwave, while Jiang Chengxuan and the avatar were swallowed by a blinding burst of starlight. Time and space twisted into incomprehensible shapes as the two forces collided. In that moment of ultimate power, neither Jiang Chengxuan nor the avatar could grasp what had truly occurred. Amid the destruction, as the blessed land shattered, and the calamity weapon collided with the combined energies of essence and chaos, Jiang Chengxuan felt as though he had been transported to another world. In this world, he lost all sense of himself, all awareness of existence. Only endless streams of black and white light flowed around him. He remained in this state for an unknown period of time, his consciousness slowly dissolving, merging with the void. Just as he was about to disappear completely, a faint spark of energy flickered within his awareness. It was filled with boundless life, as if it transcended all things. In an instant the flow of time reversed, pulling his soul back from the brink of oblivion, reforming his consciousness. In the vast, empty light, a crack opened, guiding him back into reality. When Jiang Chengxuan's eyes finally fluttered open, waves of searing pain coursed through his body, yet a faint smile tugged at the corner of his lips. Around him, the void was eerily calm. The remnants of powerful laws drifted in the wind, and cracks in space emitted faint, eerie sounds. In the distance, two figures carefully navigated through the fractures, approaching cautiously. It was none other than Chuanhin Immortal and Fuguang Immortal, and their arrival confirmed the outcome of the battle.